Good day, lovely viewers. Welcome to Potter Paradox. We have an exciting story lined up for you today. What if Harry was raised by Wednesday Addams after the family discovered he was a wizard? Dark humor. Your engagement means the world to us. Like, comment, and subscribe to help us grow and bring you more amazing content. Without wasting any time, let's start. Chapter 1. Welcome to the family. The night hung heavy over Godric's Hollow, but Wednesday Addams wasn't bothered by darkness. She'd always found it comforting, like an old friend wrapping around her shoulders. What did bother her was the residual energy crackling through the air, death magic, old and powerful, with traces of something else. Something alive. Wednesday pulled her black coat tighter against the November chill and approached the ruined cottage. At 32, she still wore her hair in tight braids and dressed exclusively in black, though she'd long ago traded her childhood dresses for tailored suits that better suited her professional endeavors as the Addams family's resident expert on the occult and arcane. Interesting, she murmured, stepping over fallen beams. The destruction was thorough but localized, as if the house had been targeted by something more precise than an ordinary explosion. Her boots crunched over broken glass as she followed the trail of energy upstairs. The nursery told the story. 2 bodies had been removed, but Wednesday could see their imprints in the lingering magical residue. One by the door, a man, standing, defiant. Another by the crib, a woman, protective, sacrificial. But the third signature, the one emanating from the crib itself, was very much alive. Wednesday peered inside, one eyebrow raising slightly, the most surprise she ever showed these days. "Well," she said to the wide-eyed baby with the lightning scar. "You're supposed to be dead. How refreshing to meet someone who defies expectations." The baby stared back, unafraid of her pale face and unsmiling demeanor. Most children cried when they saw Wednesday Addams. This one reached for her. "You have good taste," she told him, picking him up awkwardly. She'd never been particularly interested in children, not even when she was 1. "Let's see what happened to you." With the baby balanced on her hip, Wednesday examined the room methodically. The magical residue told a story, a killing curse, reflected. Unheard of. The baby's forehead practically hummed with foreign magic, dark and parasitic. "You've got something in you," she told him. "Something trying to take root. Mother will find that fascinating." A crack from outside made Wednesday turn sharply. Someone had operated nearby. She recognized the sound from her studies of the wizarding communities around the world. The Addams family had always existed at the intersection of magical worlds, never fully belonging to any of them. "Time to go," she told the baby. "I have questions, and I don't feel like explaining my presence to whoever that is." She slipped out the back just as heavy footsteps entered the front door. The baby remained eerily quiet, as if he understood the need for stealth. Wednesday approved. "You and I," she told him as they vanished into the shadows, "are going to get along splendidly. You've brought home a baby." Morticia Addams observed from her throne-like chair, elegant fingers wrapped around a goblet of something that steamed ominously. At 62, she remained as striking and severe as ever, silver streaks now decorating her midnight hair. "I found him at the epicenter of a magical catastrophe," Wednesday explained, holding the child with the careful precision she usually reserved for handling cursed artifacts. "His parents were killed. The magical signature matches the pattern of that British dark wizard, Voldemort. The one who's been causing such delicious chaos across the pond." Gomez perked up from where he'd been practicing knife throwing. His mustache had gone salt and pepper, but his eyes still gleamed with manic energy. "Splendid. Is he a gift from our dark colleague?" "No, father. I believe this child somehow defeated him." The entire Addams clan, gathered in their gloomy mansion living room, turned to stare at the toddler now sitting on the carpet, contentedly playing with a cursed music box that normally drove listeners to madness. He seemed immune to its effects. A baby vanquished the Dark Lord? Uncle Fester cackled, his bald head gleaming in the candlelight. "I like him already. Pugsley, now a burly 40-something with his father's enthusiastic demeanor, leaned closer. Does he explode? The best babies explode. Not that I've observed, Wednesday replied. But he has a fragment of dark magic embedded in his forehead. And he survived a killing curse. A killing curse. Grandmama hobbled forward, her ancient eyes bright with interest as she peered at Harry. Let me see, let me see. The old woman examined the lightning scar, muttering incantations under her breath. Oh my, oh my. There's a soul piece in there, trying to latch on. Nasty business, soul-splitting. Makes the texture all wrong for proper consumption. Wednesday, darling, Morticia's voice was smooth as poisoned honey, what exactly do you intend to do with this magical child? Wednesday looked down at the boy, who stared back with unervingly direct green eyes. His name is Harry Potter. According to the identification in the house, he's 15 months old. She paused, then added with uncharacteristic hesitation, I thought we might keep him. A moment of silence fell over the Addams family, a rare occurrence indeed. Gomez was the first to break it, leaping to his feet. Capital idea. We'll raise him as an Addams. Teach him fencing, explosives, poisons, the art of the seance, Grandmama cackled. How to properly dismember intruders, Pugsley added helpfully. The boy needs a family, Wednesday said, her voice flat but with an undercurrent of something almost like passion. The wizards will either worship him as a savior or fear him for the darkness he carries. We understand both. Morticia rose gracefully, approaching her daughter and the child. She extended one long, pale finger to Harry's cheek. To everyone's surprise, the boy grabbed it and giggled, the first sound he'd made since arriving. He has good instincts, Morticia pronounced. Wednesday, if you wish to raise this child, you have our blessing. But parenthood is a grave responsibility, almost as serious as marriage. I'm aware, Wednesday said. I've never wanted children of my own, but this one. She looked down at Harry. This one already has darkness in him. He needs someone who won't fear it. Then it's settled. Gomez declared. Young Harry Potter Addams joins the family. Lurch, prepare a room. Fester, find some suitable toys. Pugsley, do we still have that child-sized electric chair? I modified it into a high chair, Pugsley admitted. Perfect. Gomez beamed. Welcome to the family, my boy. You'll learn that death is just the beginning, pain is an old friend, and family is forever. Harry, seemingly unbothered by his sudden adoption into the strangest family in America, simply yawned and curled his small fingers around a lock of Wednesday's black hair. I think he likes you, Wednesday, Morticia observed with a rare smile. Wednesday replied, but she made no move to extract her hair from the baby's grip. 6 years later, 7-year-old Harry Potter Addams hung upside down from an ancient oak in the family graveyard, reading a book about poisons while a large black widow spider made itself comfortable on his shoulder. Aconite takes 30 minutes to kill, he read aloud to the spider. That seems inefficient, don't you think, Charlotte? The spider didn't respond, but Harry nodded as if it had. Mother would say that sometimes slow death serves a purpose, he continued thoughtfully. A teaching moment. Quite right, came Wednesday's voice as she appeared below him, still dressed entirely in black despite the summer heat. Are you planning to come down for lunch, or shall I tell Lurch to serve you in the tree like last Tuesday? Harry grinned and closed his book with a snap. Coming, Mother. In one fluid motion that showed years of practice, he swung himself upright on the branch, tucked the book into his back pocket, and then launched himself off the limb. Wednesday didn't flinch as her adopted son plummeted toward her. At the last moment, the air around Harry seemed to ripple, and his descent slowed just enough for him to land lightly on his feet beside her. Your magical control is improving, she noted, the faintest trace of pride in her otherwise monotone voice. Last month you still made those little hiccup bounces at the end. Harry beamed at the rare compliment. I've been practicing every night. Uncle Fester lets me jump off the roof when you're working in your laboratory. Does he now? Wednesday's expression didn't change, but Harry, who had become expert at reading his mother's micro-expressions, detected a hint of approval. How high can you fall safely? 30 feet so far. My record was from the attic window, but I twisted my ankle. It healed by morning though. Wednesday nodded. Acceptable progress. Your natural magic is strong, even without formal training or a wand. After lunch, we'll work on directing it more precisely. I want you to be able to catch yourself one limb at a time. Like if someone only cuts off one leg rope during a hanging? Harry asked eagerly. Precisely, Wednesday agreed. A useful survival skill. They walked together through the graveyard, Harry skipping occasionally to keep up with his mother's long strides. Unlike most children his age, Harry found perfect contentment among the tombstones and twisted trees of the Addams estate. He'd been raised here since infancy, taught that death was merely another state of being and that what others called darkness was simply a different kind of light. At 7, Harry was small for his age but moved with unusual grace and confidence. His black hair stuck out in all directions despite Wednesday's attempts to tame it, and round glasses framed his bright green eyes. The lightning scar on his forehead remained, though Grandmama's poultices had kept the dark magic within it dormant. Mother, Harry said as they approached the mansion, Grandmama told me more about my birth parents yesterday. Wednesday glanced down at him. Did she? She said they were powerful wizards who died protecting me. That they loved me. Harry frowned slightly. But I don't remember them. Wednesday stopped walking and turned to face him fully, a sign that she considered this conversation important. James and Lily Potter gave their lives for you. That's the greatest gift anyone can offer, a beautiful death with meaning. We honor them for it. But I'm an Addams now, Harry said, half statement, half question. You're Harry Potter Addams, Wednesday corrected. You carry both families within you, their sacrifice and our perspective. Never forget either. Harry nodded solemnly. I won't. Then, with the quicksilver mood changes of childhood, he brightened. Is it true we're having poison dart frog legs for lunch? Pugsley promised. Your uncle exaggerates. They're regular frog's legs with a mild neurotoxin glaze. Wednesday's lips twitched in what, for her, passed as a smile. Save room for dessert. Grandmama made her special quicksand pudding. Harry whooped and raced ahead toward the mansion, narrowly dodging a snapping Venus flytrap the size of a small car. Wednesday watched him go, her expression inscrutable to anyone who didn't know her well. Inside the cavernous dining room, the entire Addams clan had assembled. Gomez, still spry despite pushing 70, was fencing with a mechanical arm while Morticia arranged black roses in a vase of what looked suspiciously like blood. Uncle Fester was electrocuting himself with tableware to build up an appetite, while Pugsley tinkered with what appeared to be an explosive device disguised as a dinner roll. There's my favorite nephew. Pugsley boomed when Harry entered. Ready for our after-lunch demolition lesson? After his magical control practice, Wednesday interjected smoothly, taking her seat. We could combine them, Harry suggested. I could try to control the explosion pattern with magic. Excellent idea. Gomez declared, abandoning his duel and throwing himself into his chair at the head of the table. Nothing builds magical dexterity like mortal peril. That's how I learned to tango. Perhaps start with something less volatile, Morticia suggested, her voice like silk sliding over a razor. Pugsley, didn't you develop those new smoke bombs? The ones that change color based on your fear level? Pugsley grinned. They're still experimental. Last test subject had a heart attack. Perfect, Wednesday nodded. Non-lethal but instructive. Lurch, the family's impossibly tall and ghoulish butler, groaned as he brought in the first course, a soup that bubbled ominously and appeared to be watching them from multiple eyes floating on its surface. Thank you, Lurch, Harry said politely as a bowl was placed before him. "You're welcome, young master," Lurch rumbled, patting Harry's head with surprising gentleness before shuffling back toward the kitchen. "He's gotten so attached to the boy," Morticia observed. "Harry has such a gift for making friends with the most interesting creatures." "The basement ghouls have adopted him as one of their own," Gomez agreed proudly. "Found them teaching him their hunting calls last week." Harry happily slurped his eye soup, occasionally tossing a particularly juicy specimen to Thing, the disembodied hand that had become his favorite playmate over the years. The magical household had never questioned Harry's presence among them, treating the young wizard as simply another wonderfully strange member of their bizarre family. "Harry has been asking about his birth parents," Wednesday announced during the main course. The table quieted for a moment. "Fine people, the Potters," Gomez said seriously. "Never had the pleasure of meeting them personally, but I looked into their family after you brought Harry home. Old wizarding line with a knack for trouble. The boy comes by it honestly. I've communed with them twice during the Black Moon," Grandmama added, gnawing on what might have been a femur. "Lovely couple, very devoted to their boy. Quite pleased he's with people who appreciate his unique qualities." Harry perked up. "You talk to them?" "Could I, when you're older," Wednesday cut in. "Necromancy requires discipline and precision. We'll begin your training at 12. "Your mother is right," Morticia agreed. "Even Addams' children must master the basics before raising the dead. I didn't successfully communicate with my first corpse until I was 14. And what a conversation that was." Gomez reminisced. "Your great-uncle Vlad had been perfectly preserved in that Iron Maiden for 2 centuries. The stories he told." Harry nodded, disappointed but accepting. The Addams family had never sheltered him from dark or dangerous magic, but they were surprisingly strict about proper training and safety protocols. Wednesday in particular insisted that he master each macabre skill completely before moving to the next. "Besides," Pugsley added, "you're still working on your explosive decomposition spells. Can't rush necrotic arts and pyrotechnics simultaneously. I learned that the hard way." He wiggled his remaining 7 fingers. After lunch, as promised, Wednesday took Harry to the East Wing for his magical control practice. The large, dusty room had once been a ballroom but now served as their training space, with scorch marks on the walls and ceiling testifying to Harry's growing powers. "Today," Wednesday said, placing a black candle at each corner of the room, "we'll work on extending your magical sense. You've shown aptitude for feeling magic around you, now we'll refine it." Harry nodded eagerly. This was his favorite kind of lesson. While the rest of the family had their own magical talents, Gomez's unnatural agility, Morticia's affinity for deadly flora, Grandmama's potions, none could manipulate pure magic the way Harry could. Wednesday had theorized it came from his early exposure to the killing curse, which had somehow unlocked his magical core prematurely. "Close your eyes," Wednesday instructed, lighting each candle with a match rather than magic. "I'm going to move silently through the room. Use your magical sense to track me." Harry shut his eyes and concentrated, reaching out with that strange sixth sense that had developed over the years. He could feel the house around them, thrumming with generations of Addams magic, dark and joyful and chaotic all at once. He could sense the candles, tiny pinpricks of mundane fire. And there, his mother. Wednesday's magical signature was cool and precise, like the edge of a perfectly sharpened blade. He pointed directly to where she stood behind him. "Good," she said. "Now, I'll move, and you'll point to me continuously without opening your eyes." For 20 minutes they practiced, Wednesday moving with increasing speed and stealth while Harry tracked her with his finger. By the end, she was practically running, and he never lost her position for more than a second. "Excellent," she said finally. "Your sensitivity is developing nicely. This skill will serve you well at Hogwarts." Harry opened his eyes, blinking in the dim light. "When will I go?" "When you turn 11. Your name has been down since birth, according to our sources." Wednesday sat cross-legged on the floor, motioning for Harry to join her. We need to discuss what that will mean. Harry sat opposite his mother, mimicking her perfect posture. Because I'm the boy who lived, he asked, using the title he'd learned about years ago. Wednesday nodded. The wizarding world has expectations of Harry Potter. They've built myths around you during your absence. Some will worship you, others will resent you. Most will expect you to be something you're not. What am I? Harry asked. A rare, genuine smile crossed Wednesday's face. You're an Addams. You embrace what others fear. You find beauty in darkness and truth in pain. You understand that normality is the true curse. Harry grinned. I'm going to freak them out, aren't I? Undoubtedly, Wednesday agreed. And I expect you to do it with style. 4 years later, an owl swooped through the perpetually open window of the Addams mansion, dropping a heavy parchment envelope addressed in emerald green ink, Mr. H. Potter Addams, the East Tower, bedroom 0001, Cemetery Lane, Westfield, New Jersey. It's here. Harry shouted, grabbing the letter before Thing could snatch it. The disembodied hand snapped its fingers in disappointment and skittered away across the floor. The entire family converged on the living room as Harry broke the wax seal bearing the Hogwarts crest. At 11, he'd grown into a wiry, intense boy with his mother's unflinching gaze and the Addams family's comfort with all things macabre. The lightning scar remained visible on his forehead, though years of grandmama's treatments had kept the dark magic within it contained. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Harry read aloud. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confede, of Wizards. Pretentious, Wednesday commented, looking over his shoulder. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Splendid! Gomez exclaimed, puffing on his cigar. The boy's formal magical education begins. Though I must say, you've had a finer dark arts education here than any school could provide. Hogwarts doesn't teach the dark arts, Father, Wednesday reminded him. They consider them forbidden. Forbidden? What nonsense! Gomez looked genuinely perplexed. How do they expect children to learn proper cursing technique? I believe that's the point, darling, Morticia said, arranging her dress as she sat. The British wizarding community has rather conventional views on magic classification. Harry was examining the equipment list. Robes, hat, gloves, dragon hide. That could be interesting. Books, wand, cauldron, can I bring my silver one? The one lined with graveyard soil from 3 continents? Wednesday asked. I don't see why not. It's superior to pewter for most brewing applications. Can I take Charlotte? Harry asked, as the large black widow spider crawled onto his hand from its usual perch on his shoulder. Spiders aren't on the approved familiar list, Wednesday pointed out. But the letter does mention cats, toads, or owls. Uncle Fester cackled from his corner. I could teach the spider to deliver mail like an owl. A few electric shocks for motivation, I'll handle the familiar situation, Wednesday interrupted smoothly. We'll find something suitable that won't draw undue attention initially. Harry nodded, understanding the implication. First, establish himself at Hogwarts. Then gradually introduce his more unusual Addams qualities. Strategic. Will you come with me to get my supplies, Mother? He asked. Wednesday nodded. I've already made arrangements. We'll travel to London next week. I have contacts in Knockturn Alley who can guide us through Wizarding Britain discreetly. Wednesday, darling, Morticia said, perhaps discretion isn't the best approach. Harry is returning to his birth world as an Addams. That should be made clear from the beginning. Gomez leapt to his feet. Capital idea, my love. The boy should make an entrance. Show the wizarding world that the Addams family has arrived. Wednesday considered this, head tilted slightly. You may be right. Subterfuge would only delay the inevitable reaction. Better to establish the reality immediately. She turned to Harry. We'll go as ourselves. No compromises. Harry grinned. Awesome. Diagon Alley had rarely witnessed an arrival quite like that of Harry Potter Addams and his adoptive mother. They emerged from the brick passageway behind the leaky cauldron like specters from another realm, Wednesday in a perfectly tailored black suit with silver spiderweb cufflinks, and Harry in clothes that mirrored her style in miniature, complete with a small silver sword pin at his collar. The whispers began immediately. Is that Harry Potter? Who's the woman in black? What happened to his scar? It looks contained somehow. Wednesday placed a protective hand on Harry's shoulder, guiding him forward with imperious confidence. First, Gringotts, she murmured. We'll need to access your trust vault. Harry nodded, keeping his face carefully neutral as he'd been taught. Show nothing until you're ready to strike, one of Wednesday's first lessons. Still, his eyes darted everywhere, taking in the magical shops, the oddly dressed witches and wizards, the floating displays and magical advertisements. It's chaotic, he observed quietly. Disorganized magic. Not like home. Different magical tradition, Wednesday explained. British wizards separated from Muggle society centuries ago. It stunted their development in some ways. They approached the imposing white building at the end of the street, ignoring the stares and pointing fingers that followed them. The goblin guards at Gringotts' entrance straightened as they approached, something like respect, or perhaps wariness, in their eyes. Ms. Addams, one goblin acknowledged with a slight bow. We were informed you might visit. Wednesday raised an eyebrow fractionally. News travels fast. The magical signature of Harry Potter returning to British soil triggered several monitoring charms, the goblin explained with a sharp-toothed smile. Director Ragnarok would like a word, if convenient. How courteous, Wednesday replied. Lead on. Inside, they bypassed the main hall and were escorted directly to an opulent office where an elderly goblin with particularly long fingers and sharp eyes awaited them. Ms. Wednesday Addams, he greeted, standing. And young Mr. Potter Addams. I am Ragnarok, Director of Gringotts London. Director, Wednesday acknowledged with a slight inclination of her head. You wish to speak with us? Indeed. The goblin gestured for them to sit. When we detected Mr. Potter's return, I thought it prudent to discuss his financial situation personally. The Potter vaults have been sealed since his parents' deaths, with only the trust vault accessible for his education. Appropriate, Wednesday said. I assume there are inheritance protocols to address. Precisely. Ragnarok slid a folder across the desk. Mr. Potter Addams is now eligible to claim his status as heir to House Potter, which would grant him access to family heirlooms, though the main vault remains restricted until his majority at 17. Harry looked to Wednesday, who nodded slightly. I'd like to claim the heirship, Harry said formally. The Potter legacy is part of me, even as an Addams. Ragnarok nodded approvingly. Well said, young sir. We'll need a drop of blood on this parchment to confirm your identity and activate the heir ring. Wednesday's eyes narrowed. Blood magic in a bank. Interesting practices, Director. The goblin's smile widened. We find it most efficient. I assure you, the blood is destroyed after verification. It's okay, Mother, Harry said. I'm not afraid of a little blood magic. This earned him another sharp-toothed smile from Ragnarok, who produced an ornate silver dagger. Harry took it without hesitation, pricking his thumb and letting 3 drops fall onto the parchment. The blood spread, forming the Potter family crest before transforming into elegant script that confirmed his identity. A small box on the desk opened, revealing a gold ring with a ruby stone. The heir ring, Ragnarok explained. It carries certain protections and will allow you access to the Potter heirlooms vault. Harry slipped it onto his right hand, feeling a warm pulse of magic as it sized itself to fit him perfectly. "Now," Ragnarok continued, "would you like to visit your vaults today?" "Yes," Wednesday answered. "The trust vault for school expenses, and the heirlooms vault to see what family legacies await Harry." The ride down to the vaults was exactly the kind of experience Harry had hoped for, recklessly fast, dangerous, and exhilarating. By the time they reached the trust vault, he was grinning widely while Wednesday remained perfectly composed. "Key, please," the goblin attendant requested. Wednesday produced a small golden key from an inside pocket. "Retrieved from Godric's Hollow the night I found Harry," she explained quietly. "Along with your parents' wands and a few photographs." Harry nodded, touched by this revelation. His mother rarely mentioned the night she'd found him, but he knew she'd preserved what she could of his birth parents' legacy. The vault door swung open to reveal substantial piles of gold, silver, and bronze coins. Harry whistled. "That should cover your education comfortably," Wednesday observed. "Take enough for your supplies and some extra for the school year." They filled a moleskin pouch, another item Wednesday had brought along, with galleons, sickles, and nuts before continuing deeper into the caverns to the Potter family vault. This door had no keyhole, only a flat panel where Harry had to place his ring hand. The door recognized the air ring and melted away, revealing not money but shelves of artifacts, weapons, books, and jewelry. "Your heritage," Wednesday said softly. "Take time to explore." Harry wandered the vault in silent awe, touching ancient tomes on battle magic, examining enchanted weapons, and studying family portraits that moved and waved at him. He eventually selected a few items, a book on Potter family magic, a silver dagger with protection runes, and a small pendant with the Potter crest that had apparently belonged to his father as a child. Nothing ostentatious, Wednesday approved. Practical choices. Their next stop was Ollivander's for Harry's wand, the experience Wednesday had warned would be most revealing. The shop was dim and dusty, with thousands of narrow boxes stacked to the ceiling. Harry immediately sensed the magic saturating the place, old, complex, and watchful. "Good afternoon," came a soft voice from the shadows. An old man with wide, pale eyes stepped forward, staring at Harry with uncomfortable intensity. "I wondered when I'd be seeing you, Mr. Potter," he said. "Though I didn't expect you to arrive with such interesting company." "Potter Addams," Harry corrected politely but firmly. "And this is my mother, Wednesday Addams." Ollivander's gaze shifted to Wednesday, and something like recognition flickered in his eyes. Addams, an old family, though not often seen in Wizarding Britain. American branch, I believe. Known for unusual magical affinities. "We have our talents," Wednesday acknowledged neutrally. "Indeed," Ollivander murmured, returning his attention to Harry. "Well then, Mr. Potter Addams, let's find your match. Your birth parents were quite straightforward. Your mother favored a willow wand, 10¼ inches, swishy, excellent for charm work. Your father, on the other hand, preferred mahogany, 11 inches, pliable, powerful and excellent for transfiguration." Harry nodded, storing this information away as Ollivander began pulling boxes from the shelves. The first wand, beechwood and dragon heartstring, did nothing when Harry waved it. The second, maple and phoenix feather, shot out painful-looking sparks that Ollivander hastily extinguished. Wand after wand proved unsuitable, but rather than growing frustrated, Ollivander became increasingly excited. "Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, the wand chooses the wizard, after all. I wonder." He disappeared into the back of the shop, returning with a dusty box. "An unusual combination, holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple." Harry took the wand and immediately felt warmth spread through his fingers. He raised it and brought it swishing down, producing a stream of silver and black sparks that danced around the room like living shadows. "Curious," Ollivander whispered. "Very curious." "What's curious?" Harry asked, still admiring the wand's response. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter Addams. The phoenix whose tail feather resides in your wand gave another feather, just one other. It is curious that you should be destined for this wand when its brother gave you that scar. Harry's eyes widened slightly, and he felt Wednesday step closer to him. The wand chooses based on magical compatibility, she observed. Which suggests Harry and Voldemort have similar magical cores. Harry expected the wandmaker to flinch at the name, but Ollivander merely nodded. Similar, yet different. Your mother's interventions. His eyes flickered to Harry's scar, which was contained within a pattern of tiny runes Grandmama had tattooed around it years ago, have altered what might have been. This wand senses something in you beyond what was there originally. The Addams influence, Harry said with pride. Precisely. Ollivander smiled faintly. I believe we can expect great things from you, Mr. Potter Addams. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great. Wednesday placed 7 galleons on the counter. We'll take it, she said, ending the conversation. Their final stop was Flourish and Blots for schoolbooks. Wednesday insisted on purchasing not only the required texts but supplementary volumes on magical theory, defense, and potions. Harry added a book on magical creatures to the stack. For research on potential familiars, he explained. Speaking of which, Wednesday said, consulting her watch, we have one more appointment. Our contact should be waiting at the magical menagerie. The pet shop was crowded and noisy, filled with cages containing everything from ordinary cats to fire-breathing salamanders. A tall, gaunt wizard in dark robes spotted them immediately and approached. Ms. Addams, he greeted with a slight bow. Bartholomew Crouch, rare creature specialist. I've brought the specimen we discussed. He led them to a private room at the back of the shop where a covered cage sat on a table. With a flourish, Crouch removed the cover to reveal a sleek, black animal that resembled a cross between a cat and a raven. Its fur had a feathery quality, and small, vestigial wings protruded from its shoulders. When it opened its eyes, they were intelligent, completely black, and decidedly predatory. A shadow mink, Crouch announced proudly. Nearly extinct, highly intelligent, and capable of limited shadow travel between connected dark spaces. Technically classified as a cat for school purposes, though the designation is generous. Harry approached the cage cautiously. The creature studied him with obvious intelligence before emitting a soft trill that sounded almost like dark laughter. He's perfect, Harry breathed. Does he have a name? They name themselves, Crouch explained. Once bonded, you'll know what to call him. Wednesday examined the creature critically. Legal in Britain. Not explicitly illegal, Crouch hedged. The classification is vague enough to provide plausible deniability. And he can hide his more unusual features when necessary. As if to demonstrate, the shadow mink's wings seemed to melt into its fur, leaving it looking like an unusually sleek black cat with oversized eyes. We'll take him, Wednesday decided, counting out a substantial number of galleons from her own purse rather than Harry's school money. Harry opened the cage, and the creature immediately leapt to his shoulder, nuzzling against his neck before settling into a position remarkably similar to where Charlotte the spider usually perched. I think his name is Mortis, Harry said suddenly, certainty in his voice. Wednesday's lips curved slightly. Appropriate. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with activity on September 1st as families bid farewell to students boarding the Hogwarts Express. The Addams family's arrival caused a ripple effect of stunned silence followed by furious whispers. They had come in full force, Gomez and Morticia, Wednesday, Uncle Fester, Pugsley, Grandmama, Lurch, and even Thing, who rode in Harry's pocket. Their procession through the barrier had been like a parade of elegant Gothic nightmares, with Lurch pushing the luggage trolley and Gomez occasionally breaking into spontaneous fencing moves with his walking stick. Remember, Harry, Morticia said, straightening his already impeccable black jacket, a proper Addams always maintains dignity, especially when unleashing chaos. Yes, Grandmother, Harry replied with a fond smile. The package in your trunk contains emergency potions, Grandmama added. The red vial is for healing, the black one for poisoning, and the green one, well, the green one is just for fun. Don't forget to write, old man. Gomez clapped Harry on the shoulder. Especially if you find any good dungeons. The family hasn't explored a proper British dungeon in decades. I promise, grandfather, Harry laughed. Wednesday stepped forward last, her face as impassive as ever, though Harry could read the subtle signs of emotion in her dark eyes. Remember who you are, she said simply. Both Potter and Addams. Both legacies have value. Harry nodded solemnly. I will, mother. If you need me, she continued, use the mirror. I can be in Scotland within hours. I know. Harry hesitated, then hugged her tightly. Wednesday returned the embrace without her usual stiffness, one hand briefly stroking his unruly hair. Give them hell, she whispered in his ear before releasing him. Harry grinned, adjusting his glasses. Mortis, in his normal cat disguise, wound around his ankles before leaping up to his customary shoulder perch. All aboard, called the conductor. With a final wave to his family, Harry boarded the train, finding an empty compartment near the back. He settled by the window, watching as the Addams clan stood out like beautiful dark statues among the colorful crowd of wizarding families. The compartment door slid open, and a red-haired boy peered in nervously. Excuse me. Do you mind if I sit here? Everywhere else is full. Harry gestured to the empty seat. Be my guest. The boy entered, dragging his trunk and taking the seat opposite Harry. I'm Ron, by the way. Ron Weasley. Harry Potter Addams, Harry replied, extending his hand. Ron's eyes widened comically. Blimey. You're Harry Potter. But. Addams? I was adopted, Harry explained, scratching Mortis behind the ears. The Addams family took me in after my parents were killed. Oh. Ron seemed unsure how to respond. Was that them on the platform? The scary-looking bunch all in black. Harry smiled. That's my family, yes. Not scary once you know them, well, not unpleasantly scary, anyway. The train whistle blew, and the platform began to slide away. Harry caught a final glimpse of Wednesday, standing slightly apart from the others, her pale face impassive but her eyes fixed intently on his window. He raised his hand in farewell, and she nodded once before the train rounded a bend. So, Ron said awkwardly, did you really grow up with? I mean, I've heard stories about the Addams family. Dad works at the ministry, and he says they're famous even in Wizarding America for being, well, eccentric. Harry suggested. Mental was the word Dad used, Ron admitted, then blushed. Sorry. Harry laughed. No need to apologize. We embrace our reputation. The Addams family has always found beauty and joy in what others find frightening or strange. Ron relaxed slightly. So what was it like growing up with them? Wonderful, Harry said simply. My mother, Wednesday Addams, found me the night my parents were killed. She brought me home, and they raised me as one of their own. I learned magic, fencing, poisons, explosive chemistry, necromancy basics, how to communicate with the dead, taxidermy, the usual family skills. Ron's mouth hung open. Blimey, he repeated weakly. Before the conversation could continue, the compartment door slid open again to reveal a bushy-haired girl already wearing her Hogwarts robes. Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Neville's lost one, she said in a bossy sort of voice. No toads here, Ron replied. Unless your cat ate it, he added to Harry. Mortis gave Ron a look of disdain that seemed too intelligent for an ordinary cat. He prefers larger prey, Harry said matter-of-factly. Preferably still screaming. The girl's eyes widened, and she took a closer look at Harry. You're Harry Potter. I've read all about you in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts. Potter Addams, Harry corrected. And those books are mostly speculation. I was raised away from the wizarding world. Oh. The girls sat down uninvited. I'm Hermione Granger. I'm Muggle-born, so this is all new to me. Are the Addams a wizarding family? We exist adjacent to multiple magical traditions, Harry explained, repeating what Wednesday had taught him. The Addams bloodline carries its own form of magic, different from what's taught at Hogwarts but compatible with it. That's fascinating. Hermione exclaimed. I haven't read anything about alternative magical traditions. Is there a book? She was interrupted as the compartment door opened yet again. This time, a pale blonde boy entered, flanked by two larger boys who looked more like bodyguards than friends. Is it true? The blonde demanded. They're saying Harry Potter is in this compartment. Potter Addams, Harry corrected for the third time, beginning to find it tiresome. And you are? Malfoy. Draco Malfoy. The boy extended his hand with practiced formality. This is Crabbe and Goyle. Ron gave a slight cough that might have been disguising a snigger. Draco glared at him. Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. Red hair, hand-me-down robes, you must be a Weasley. He turned back to Harry. You'll soon find that some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there. Harry regarded Draco's outstretched hand thoughtfully. Then, with a speed that startled everyone, he grasped it, not to shake, but to turn it palm up. With his other hand, he produced the small silver dagger he'd retrieved from the Potter vault and pricked Draco's palm lightly before anyone could react. What the? Draco yelped, trying to pull away, but Harry held firm, studying the single drop of blood that welled up. Interesting, Harry said calmly, releasing Draco's hand. Your blood's quite ordinary for someone so proud of its purity. My family believes actions define worth, not ancestry. Draco clutched his hand, face pale with shock and outrage. My father will hear about this. Feel free to tell him, Harry replied pleasantly. The Addams family has centuries of experience with angry parents. We find they either learn to appreciate our perspective or suffer unfortunate accidents. Crabbe and Goyle stepped forward menacingly, but Mortis chose that moment to reveal his true nature, wings unfurling from his back as he hissed, displaying needle-sharp teeth and emanating a shadow that seemed to grow disproportionately large. The three boys backed out of the compartment hastily, Draco still clutching his pricked hand. That was brilliant. Ron exclaimed once they'd gone. But also completely mental. His father really is influential at the ministry. Harry shrugged, stroking Mortis, who had returned to his cat-like appearance and was purring contentedly. Mother says it's important to establish boundaries early. A small demonstration prevents larger confrontations later. Hermione looked torn between horror and fascination. You can't just go around stabbing people. You'll be expelled before we even arrive. It was barely a prick, Harry pointed out. And technically, I was performing a traditional Addams greeting ritual to determine his character. Very educational. Is that really a thing? Ron asked skeptically. Harry grinned. It is now. The rest of the journey passed in a mix of cautious conversation and growing curiosity. Ron explained wizarding games and his family, while Hermione peppered Harry with questions about growing up with the Addams family. Harry answered selectively, following Wednesday's advice to reveal himself gradually. By the time they changed into their school robes and arrived at Hogsmeade Station, an uneasy friendship had begun to form between the three first years. As they followed Hagrid's booming voice toward the boats, Harry felt a thrill of anticipation. Hogwarts Castle appeared across the lake, its windows blazing with golden light against the night sky. It was beautiful in a Gothic, imposing way that reminded Harry of home. Mother would approve, he murmured to Mortis, who trilled an agreement from inside Harry's robes, where he'd hidden to avoid the gamekeeper's attention. The sorting ceremony began with Professor McGonagall's stern instructions. Harry observed the enchanted ceiling with appreciation. The Addams mansion had similar magical features, though theirs typically showed thunderstorms regardless of the actual weather. As names were called alphabetically, Harry waited patiently, noting which students went to which houses. Hermione became a Gryffindor after a brief deliberation by the Sorting Hat, while Draco Malfoy was immediately sorted into Slytherin. Finally, Potter, Harry, was called, creating an immediate buzz of whispers throughout the hall. Potter Addams, Harry corrected as he stepped forward, causing another wave of murmurs. McGonagall's eyebrows rose slightly, but she made no comment as Harry sat on the stool and the ancient hat was placed on his head. Said a small voice in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a thirst to prove yourself, but what's this? Raised by the Addams family? How fascinating. You know of them? Harry thought back. Oh yes, the Sorting Hat sees all family lines. The Addams clan rarely attends formal magical schools, too constrained by rules, they find. But their magical lineage is ancient and powerful. I see their influence in you, alongside your birth parents' legacy. But where to put you? Harry considered. I want to honor both my families. Both families, eh? Well, your birth parents were Gryffindors through and through. But that Addams upbringing has given you cunning and ambition worthy of Slytherin, with a Ravenclaw's thirst for forbidden knowledge and a Hufflepuff's fierce family loyalty. Truly, you could fit anywhere. Then put me where I'll make the biggest impact, Harry suggested. The hat seemed to chuckle. Impact? Oh, Mr. Potter Addams, you'll make an impact wherever you go. But if that's your criteria, better be Gryffindor. The last word was shouted to the hall. The Gryffindor table erupted in cheers, with the Weasley twins chanting, "We got Potter. We got Potter." As Harry removed the hat and headed toward his new house table, he caught sight of the staff watching him with various expressions, from Dumbledore's twinkling curiosity to Snape's narrow-eyed suspicion. A professor in a purple turban seemed to be staring with particular intensity, causing a brief twinge in Harry's scar despite its protective runes. Well, Mortis, Harry whispered to the creature hidden in his robes, this should be interesting. And as he took his seat beside his new housemates, Harry Potter Addams smiled in a way that would have made Wednesday proud, a smile that promised chaos, adventure, and a very different kind of Hogwarts experience than anyone expected. Chapter 2, School of Witchcraft. Meet the Addams. Harry woke up his first morning at Hogwarts to find Mortis perched on his chest, wings partially unfurled, staring intently at his face. Morning to you too, Harry murmured, reaching up to scratch behind the shadow mink's ears. Ready to freak out some classmates? Mortis made a trilling sound that somehow conveyed enthusiastic agreement. The Gryffindor dormitory was still quiet, with Ron and the other boys, Neville, Dean, and Seamus, sleeping soundly. Harry slipped out of bed and dressed quickly in his school robes, which he'd modified slightly with Wednesday's help before leaving home. The standard black fabric now had almost imperceptible silver embroidery along the edges, protective runes and symbols that had been in the Addams family for generations. Harry checked his reflection in the mirror, making sure the lightning scar with its containing rune tattoos was visible. Wednesday had advised him not to hide it. Your scar is part of your story. Let them see it controlled rather than concealed. What in Merlin's name is that? Came a startled voice. Harry turned to see Ron sitting up in bed, pointing at Mortis, who had shifted into his full form, wings and all. This is Mortis, my familiar, Harry explained. He can look like a normal cat when needed, but this is his real form. Is that allowed? Ron asked, eyeing the creature warily. Harry shrugged. The letter said cats, owls, or toads. Technically, he's classified as a cat. He didn't mention that this classification was extremely generous and probably involved some bribery by Bartholomew Crouch. Right, Ron said dubiously. Just keep him away from Scabbers, yeah. My rat's nervous enough already. As if on cue, Mortis let out a low hiss, eyes fixed on Ron's trunk where the rat presumably slept. "Mortis," Harry said firmly, "no eating housemates' pets. Mother would consider it rude." He turned to Ron with a grin. "Don't worry, he's well trained. The Addams family has strict rules about when eating living creatures is appropriate." Ron looked like he wasn't sure whether Harry was joking. "That's reassuring." They headed down to breakfast together, joined by a nervous Neville and an excited Hermione, who was already talking about classes before they'd even reached the Great Hall. "I hope we start with Transfiguration," she was saying. "I've already read the first 3 chapters of the textbook, and the theory is fascinating. Personally, I'm hoping for potions," Harry interjected. "Grandmother has been teaching me brewing since I was 6. "Your grandmother teaches potions?" Neville asked. "Among other things," Harry nodded. "Her specialties are poisons, cures, and hallucinogens, though Mother says I can't learn those until I'm 15. Several nearby students who overheard this quickly moved away from Harry. Ron and Neville exchanged worried glances, but Hermione looked intrigued. "Is potions making common in the Addams family tradition?" she asked. "Essential," Harry confirmed. "Every Addams learns to brew. Uncle Fester specializes in explosives, Mother in precision toxins, Grandfather in mood-altering concoctions. His ecstasy elixir can cause joy so intense it's been known to stop hearts." Hermione's eyes widened. "That doesn't sound legal." "We have an understanding with various authorities," Harry said vaguely, remembering Wednesday's careful explanations about the family's quasi-legal status in multiple countries. They entered the Great Hall, where hundreds of owls were delivering the morning mail. Harry wasn't expecting anything, so he was surprised when a sleek black raven swooped down to land precisely beside his plate, extending a leg with a small package attached. "Is that a raven?" Ron asked through a mouthful of toast. "I thought only owls delivered mail." "It's Mother's," Harry explained, untying the package. "Wednesday doesn't care for conventional methods." The raven fixed Ron with an intelligent stare before accepting a piece of bacon from Harry and flying off. Harry opened the package to find a small silver box and a note in Wednesday's elegant, precise handwriting. "Harry, Grandmama insisted I send this, her special blend of calming tonic. 2 drops before confronting authority figures who disapprove of our methods. Don't take more unless you want to experience paralytic bliss. Remember, they fear what they don't understand. Use that. Mother P.S. Uncle Fester says the dungeons are excellent detonation chambers if you need privacy. Acoustics enhance the boom." Harry smiled and tucked the box into his pocket just as Professor McGonagall distributed their class schedules. They had Transfiguration first, followed by Charms and then Potions with the Slytherins after lunch. "Let's go," Harry said, standing. "I don't want to be late for our first class." Professor McGonagall's introduction to Transfiguration was stern and impressive. After transforming her desk into a pig and back again, she lectured them on the precision and focus required for successful transfiguration. "This is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts," she warned. "Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back." They were each given a match and instructed to try turning it into a needle. Harry studied his match intently, remembering his mother's lessons on transformation magic, though the Addams version usually involved less benign objects. Intent matters more than incantation, Wednesday had taught him. Visualize not just the form but the essence of what you're creating. Harry closed his eyes briefly, picturing not just a needle but its purpose, to pierce, to join, to draw blood in tiny, precise amounts. When he opened his eyes and performed the spell, his match didn't just become silver and pointy like Hermione's partial success, it transformed into a perfect sewing needle with an ornate eye that resembled a tiny skull. "Mr. Potter!" Professor McGonagall exclaimed, noticing his success. She picked up the needle to examine it, then frowned at the macabre decorative element. "This is unusually detailed work for a first attempt. 5 points to Gryffindor. Though perhaps next time, a more conventional design." "Sorry, Professor," Harry said, not sounding sorry at all. In my family, we believe practical objects should reflect aesthetic values. Indeed, McGonagall said dryly. And your family values include skulls? Among other symbols of mortality, Harry agreed cheerfully. Mother says acknowledging death in daily objects helps us appreciate life more keenly. McGonagall looked like she wasn't quite sure how to respond to that. Well, that's certainly philosophical. Please continue practicing, everyone. By the end of class, only Harry and Hermione had successfully transformed their matches, though Harry's second attempt, featuring a needle with a tiny spider design, earned him another raised eyebrow from McGonagall. That was brilliant, Ron said as they headed to Charms. Where did you learn to do that? Mother started teaching me wandless transformation basics when I was 8, Harry explained. Nothing complex, just changing the color of flowers to black, making dead insects dance, that sort of thing. The wand makes it much easier. Hermione looked both impressed and slightly envious. Is that common in wizarding families? Starting so young? Not exactly, Harry admitted. The Addams approach to education is unconventional. We start early with practical applications. Theory comes later, if at all. Charms class proved equally interesting. Tiny Professor Flitwick fell off his stack of books when he called Harry's name during roll call, causing Mortis, who was hiding in Harry's bag, to pop his head out curiously. What is that? Squeaked Flitwick, pointing at the shadow mink. My familiar, Professor, Harry said calmly. His name is Mortis. That is not a standard familiar species, Mr. Potter. Potter Addams, Harry corrected automatically. And he's classified as a cat, more or less. More less than more, I suspect, Flitwick muttered, but seemed too flustered to pursue it further. Well, keep him controlled, please. The lesson on the Lumos charm took an unexpected turn when Harry's attempt produced not the standard white light but a deep, purple-black illumination that somehow made shadows deeper instead of banishing them. Fascinating. Flitwick exclaimed, examining the effect. I've only seen this variant in certain Eastern European traditions. How did you achieve it? Harry shrugged. I just thought about the kind of light we use at home. The Addams mansion is always lit for optimal shadow creation. Most unusual, Flitwick murmured. But effective in its way. 5 points to Gryffindor for magical versatility. By lunchtime, word had spread through the school about Harry Potter's strange magic and bizarre comments about his family. Students stared and whispered as he entered the great hall with Ron and Hermione. You're already famous, mate, Ron observed. The boy who lived, raised by a family of, what exactly are the Addams, anyway? We're just people who see beauty where others see darkness, Harry replied, helping himself to rare roast beef. We embrace the aspects of life most prefer to ignore or fear. Like death and poison and, what was it you said this morning? Paralytic bliss? Hermione asked, looking concerned. Among other things, Harry nodded. The magical world and the mundane one both try to sanitize existence. The Addams family believes in experiencing it fully, the pain, the pleasure, the macabre, the beautiful. That's actually quite profound, Hermione said thoughtfully. Don't encourage him, Ron groaned. Next he'll have us all wearing black and collecting spiders. Harry grinned. Only if you're interested. We never force our lifestyle on others. We just. His grin widened, invite them to experience it. After lunch came potions with Professor Snape. Harry had been looking forward to this class based on his experience brewing with Grandmama, but he quickly realized Snape's approach was very different from the chaotic, intuitive methods of the Addams family. The potions master swept into the dungeon classroom, black robes billowing dramatically, an effect Harry mentally noted to ask him about later, as Wednesday would appreciate the technique. Snape began by taking roll call, pausing at Harry's name. Ah, yes, he said softly, Harry Potter. Our new celebrity. Potter Addams, sir, Harry corrected politely. Snape's eyes narrowed. Yes, I've heard about your unusual upbringing. Fame clearly wasn't enough for you. Harry tilted his head curiously. I wasn't aware I was famous until recently, Professor. I was raised away from the wizarding world. Indeed. Snape's voice dripped with skepticism. Tell me, Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Hermione's hand shot into the air, but Harry smiled slightly. These were ingredients Grandmama used regularly. The draught of living death, sir. A powerful sleeping potion that simulates death so convincingly that historically, several presumed corpses have been buried alive after its administration. Something flickered in Snape's expression, surprise, perhaps, before he continued. Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar? The stomach of a goat, traditionally. Though Grandmama once extracted one from a mountain lion when we were camping in Colorado. She says predator bezoars have stronger counteragent properties, but that's not in standard texts. Snape's eyebrow rose fractionally. And what is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? They're the same plant, also called aconite. Useful in numerous poisons, though the Addams family recipe adds belladonna for a more aesthetic death experience, the hallucinations in the final moments are apparently quite beautiful. The classroom had gone completely silent. Even the Slytherins looked unsettled. Correct, Snape said finally. Though I would advise against sharing your family's enhancements to standard potion recipes in this classroom. Of course, Professor, Harry agreed. Safety first. That's why we always taste test new poisons on Uncle Fester before giving them to guests. A few nervous laughs broke out, quickly silenced by Snape's glare. The professor set them to mixing a simple potion to cure boils, and Harry found himself paired with Neville, who looked terrified of both Snape and Harry. Don't worry, Harry told him as they set up their cauldron. Brewing is all about confidence and timing. Grandmama says hesitation is what turns medicine into poison, though in our house, that's often the goal. Neville managed a weak smile. I'm rubbish at this sort of thing. Plants I understand, but potions. Think of it as plant preparation with purpose, Harry suggested. Each ingredient has properties and timing. Just like gardening. With Harry's steady guidance, Neville managed to avoid the disasters that seemed to befall him in other cauldrons. Their potion turned out nearly perfect, a fact that seemed to both impress and irritate Snape when he inspected it. Acceptable, he said curtly. Though I note, Potter, that your stirring technique is unconventional. Grandmother taught me to stir with intent, Harry explained. The motion matters less than the purpose you visualize with each turn. Snape studied him for a moment. An unusual but not invalid approach. The Addams family has a certain reputation in obscure brewing circles. Grandmama would be pleased to hear that, Harry said sincerely. She values recognition from serious practitioners. After class, as they climbed the stairs from the dungeons, Ron shook his head in disbelief. I've never seen Snape almost compliment anyone from Gryffindor before. What did you do to him? Nothing, Harry shrugged. I just answered his questions. With disturbing details about beautiful death experiences, Hermione added, looking troubled. Harry, some of the things you say about your family, they sound almost criminal. Harry suggested. Dark? Insane? Well, yes, she admitted. Harry smiled. The Addams family exists in the spaces between conventional morality. We don't harm innocents, but we don't shy away from the darker aspects of existence either. It's all about perspective. And poisons, apparently, Ron muttered. Remind me never to eat at your house. Oh, we'd never poison guests without informed consent, Harry assured him. That would be rude. The rest of the week continued in similar fashion. In herbology, Harry's knowledge of deadly plants impressed Professor Sprout, though she seemed disturbed by his detailed descriptions of their more lethal applications. Defense against the dark arts proved disappointing. Professor Quirrell seemed afraid of his own shadow, let alone actual dark magic. Harry's scar twinged painfully whenever Quirrell turned his back, making him suspicious. "There's something wrong with him," Harry told Ron and Hermione as they left the classroom. "And I don't just mean his teaching. Mother taught me to recognize disguised magic, and he's hiding something." "Like what?" Ron asked. "I'm not sure yet," Harry frowned. "But whatever it is, it's directly connected to this." He touched his scar. "The containing runes Grandmama placed should prevent any external magic from affecting it, but something's interfering with them when he's near." "You think Professor Quirrell is using dark magic on you?" Hermione looked skeptical. "He seems too nervous to cast a proper Lumos, let alone anything dangerous." "Appearances can be deceiving," Harry said. "Uncle Fester looks like a harmless lunatic, but he once destroyed half a mountain range during what was supposed to be a simple mining expedition." By the weekend, Harry had established himself as one of the more bizarre but academically capable first years. His classmates gave him a wide berth, partly due to his fame and partly due to his disconcerting comments about the Addams family traditions. Only Ron and Hermione seemed willing to spend extended time with him, though even they sometimes exchanged worried glances when he casually mentioned particularly disturbing aspects of his upbringing. On Saturday morning, Harry received another package from home, this one delivered by an enormous vulture that caused a sensation in the Great Hall when it landed on the Gryffindor table, knocking over several juice pitchers. "Cousin, it sends his regards," Harry read from the attached note, smiling as he unwrapped the package to reveal what appeared to be an ordinary journal bound in black leather. "Excellent. What's that?" Ron asked, eyeing the journal suspiciously. "A communication book," Harry explained. "The Addams family version of a two-way mirror, but more detailed. I write in it, and Mother can read my entries in the matching volume at home." "Like a diary?" Hermione asked. "Sort of, except it shows my words to someone else," Harry said. "Cousin, it enhanced it with some family magic. Watch." He took out a quill, dipped it in ink, and wrote in the journal. The vulture caused quite a stir. "Thank Cousin it for me." The ink seemed to sink into the page and disappear. Moments later, new words formed in different handwriting. The vulture was Pugsley's idea. "Mother says to remind you about the calming tonic before flying lessons tomorrow. Apparently, broomstick accidents can be fatal if you're not prepared to enjoy the fall." "That's your mother?" Hermione asked, peering at the elegant, spiky handwriting. "Yes," Harry said proudly. "She wants regular updates. The Addams family is very close-knit." "Mental," Ron muttered, but he looked impressed despite himself. Flying lessons with Madame Hooch began dramatically when Neville lost control of his broom and broke his wrist. After the instructor had taken him to the hospital wing, Draco Malfoy found Neville's remembrall in the grass and decided to hide it somewhere interesting, like up a tree. "Give it here, Malfoy," Harry said calmly as Draco mounted his broom. "Come and get it, Potter," Malfoy taunted, soaring into the air. Harry picked up his own broom, but before he could mount it, Hermione grabbed his arm. "Harry, no. You'll get expelled." "Only if I'm caught," Harry replied with a grin that was pure Addams. He pulled away and kicked off hard, soaring upward with natural skill that surprised even himself. It felt amazing, better than swinging from the ancient oak in the Addams graveyard, better even than the time Uncle Fester had attached experimental rockets to his shoes. Up here, Harry felt perfectly at home, as if he'd been born to fly. "Give it back," Harry called as he pulled even with Malfoy, who looked stunned at Harry's flying ability. "No," Malfoy sneered, recovering his composure. "I think I'll leave it somewhere for Longbottom to find. How about on the roof?" Or, Harry suggested conversationally, "I could show you what happens when you cross an Addams." Before Malfoy could respond, Harry surged forward, executing a perfect barrel roll that brought him alongside the Slytherin. In one fluid motion, he reached out and grasped Malfoy's wrist, not going for the remembrall, but applying pressure to a specific nerve point Wednesday had taught him. "What?" Malfoy gasped as his fingers involuntarily opened, dropping the remembrall. His eyes widened in panic as the glass ball plummeted toward the ground. Harry released Malfoy's wrist and dived. The wind whistled in his ears as he shot toward the ground like a black-robed bullet. Just feet from the grass, he caught the remembrall with one hand while pulling his broom level with the other, executing a graceful roll that absorbed his momentum and deposited him gently on his feet, standing upright with the glass ball raised triumphantly. The Gryffindors erupted in cheers, only to fall silent immediately as Professor McGonagall came storming across the lawn. "Harry Potter." "It's Potter Addams, Professor," Harry corrected automatically, then winced as he realized this probably wasn't the best moment to insist on his full name. "Never, in all my time at Hogwarts," McGonagall seemed almost speechless with shock. "How dare you, might have broken your neck, but I didn't," Harry pointed out reasonably. "Mother says calculated risks are acceptable when the potential reward outweighs the danger. Your mother is not the head of Gryffindor House. Follow me, now." Harry followed McGonagall into the castle, still clutching the remembrall and his broomstick. To his surprise, they didn't go to her office but instead stopped outside the Charms classroom, where she asked to borrow Wood for a moment. Wood turned out to be a burly fifth-year boy who looked confused until McGonagall explained what she'd witnessed on the training grounds. "Wood, I've found you a seeker," she announced. What followed was surreal. Rather than punishing him, McGonagall was recommending Harry for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Wood examined Harry with growing excitement, declaring him perfect seeker material based on his size and demonstrated flying skills. "Your father would be proud," McGonagall told Harry with unexpected softness. "He was an excellent Quidditch player himself." "My birth father," Harry clarified. "Gomez Addams prefers explosive croquet." McGonagall's lips thinned. "Yes, well. Perhaps you could write to your adoptive mother about this opportunity. First years aren't normally allowed their own broomsticks, but we'll make an exception in this case." Harry nodded. "Mother will be pleased. She always says that bending rules is acceptable when exceptional talent is involved." "That is not precisely the lesson I'm trying to impart," McGonagall sighed. "Just, try not to kill yourself or others during practice, Mr. Potter Addams. Madam Hooch will arrange separate training sessions for you with Wood." That evening in the common room, Harry wrote to Wednesday about his new position on the Quidditch team. Her response came quickly: "Harry, Quidditch sounds suitably dangerous. Gomez is ecstatic about your position as seeker. Apparently he placed several long-term bets on your athletic future when you were an infant. Do try to survive, but if not, die spectacularly. Addams' family honor demands nothing less. I've ordered you a Nimbus 2000. It should arrive within the week. Pugsley has enhanced it with some minor modifications. Nothing lethal, merely precautionary. The handle contains a concealed blade, and the bristles have been treated with a paralytic agent that activates on contact with an opponent's skin." Mother Harry showed the letter to Ron, whose eyes bulged. "She's sending you a Nimbus 2000. That's the best broom on the market." Then he processed the rest. "Wait, did she say paralytic agent? That's got to be against Quidditch regulations." "I'm sure I won't need to use it," Harry assured him. "It's just there as a backup. The Addams family believes in being prepared for all contingencies." "Including cheating?" Hermione asked disapprovingly, having overheard the conversation. "It's not cheating to use all available resources," Harry countered. "But don't worry, I'll only use the modifications if someone tries to kill me first." "That's not very reassuring," Hermione muttered. The Nimbus 2000 arrived at breakfast a few days later, wrapped in brown paper and accompanied by a note saying, "Don't open at the table," in Wednesday's handwriting. Harry waited until he was safely in the boys' dormitory to unwrap it, with Ron watching eagerly. The broomstick was beautiful, sleek, polished, and clearly top of the line. Harry ran his hand along the handle, finding a nearly invisible seam where the concealed blade presumably hid. "Wicked," Ron breathed, admiring the broom. "Can I touch it?" "Better not," Harry warned. "I'm not sure if Pugsley's modifications are active yet." He examined the bristles carefully. They looked normal, but knowing Uncle Pugsley, the paralytic could be triggered by something specific. A small black envelope fell out of the wrapping. Inside was a card with instructions: blade releases with counterclockwise quarter turn of the third grip ridge. Paralytic activates when you say "Addams airborne" before takeoff. Effects last 20 minutes. Antidote in the compass cap at the end of the handle. Don't tell anyone. Legal deniability is crucial. Have fun. Try not to paralyze teammates. "I won't tell anyone," Ron promised when Harry explained the modifications, looking both horrified and impressed. "But blimey, Harry, your family is seriously scary." "We prepared," Harry grinned. "Now let's get to Wood's practice session. I want to try this out." Harry proved to be a natural seeker, just as McGonagall had predicted. Wood was delighted with his reflexes and fearlessness, though he did have to occasionally remind Harry that the goal was to catch the snitch, not to execute the most dangerous possible maneuvers for the thrill of it. "The risk is part of the reward," Harry tried to explain after a particularly reckless dive. "Mother says fear of death diminishes life." "Your mother sounds terrifying," Wood said, looking disturbed. "Just try to stay alive until we win the cup, all right?" Life at Hogwarts settled into a strange rhythm. Harry excelled in most classes, particularly potions, much to Snape's conflicted dismay, transfiguration, and charms, though his methods often shocked the professors. His success at turning a matchstick into a perfectly formed silver dagger in McGonagall's class earned him points for skill but a lecture on appropriate transfiguration targets. "Mr. Potter Addams, while your magical ability is impressive, I must question the suitability of creating weapons in my classroom," McGonagall said sternly. "It's not a weapon, Professor," Harry explained. "It's a ritual tool. For magical focus." "And what ritual requires an 11-year-old to wield a silver dagger?" she asked with pronounced skepticism. Harry's response, "Nothing human," did little to reassure her. In Care of Magical Creatures, which Harry had special permission to audit occasionally due to his unusual familiar, he shocked Professor Kettleburn by calmly approaching a group of streelers, highly venomous giant snails whose touch could be fatal. "Potter, get back!" Kettleburn shouted in alarm. "It's fine, Professor," Harry called over his shoulder. "I've built up an immunity to most biological venoms. Family tradition, we start with small doses as toddlers." Whether this was true or not, the streelers seemed to accept Harry, allowing him to stroke their shells while changing colors rapidly in apparent pleasure. Kettleburn was equally fascinated and disturbed. "Most unusual affinity," the professor muttered. "The boy either has a death wish or a natural gift with dangerous creatures. Possibly both." Harry's friendship with Ron and Hermione deepened despite his eccentricities. Ron seemed to have decided that Harry's bizarre upbringing was worth tolerating for the sheer entertainment value, while Hermione was fascinated by the alternative magical traditions Harry casually mentioned. "So your family doesn't use standardized spells?" she asked one evening in the common room, where Harry was writing in his communication journal. "We use some," Harry explained, "but Addams' magic is more about intent and bloodline connection than specific incantations. It's old magic, predates wands, according to Grandmama. But that's fascinating. There's hardly anything in the Hogwarts library about pre-wand magical traditions. Could you show me something?" Harry considered for a moment, then nodded. He set down his quill and held out his hand, palm up. Concentrating, he created a small, dancing flame that burned black instead of orange. "Addams' fire," he explained as Hermione gasped. "It burns cold instead of hot. We use it for certain rituals, and for camping when we don't want to attract attention." "That's incredible," Hermione breathed, reaching toward the flame cautiously. "May I?" "Go ahead. It won't hurt you, unless you fear it." Addams' fire feeds on fear. Hermione touched the black flame gingerly, then more confidently when she felt its cool caress. It's beautiful, she said. Why isn't this taught here? Because it's family magic, passed through blood and tradition, Harry explained. Also, the Ministry probably classifies it as dark because it's unfamiliar and looks scary. That's not fair, Hermione frowned. Magic shouldn't be classified as dark just because it's different. Harry smiled. Now you're thinking like an Addams. Halloween arrived with a feast that impressed even Harry, who was accustomed to the Addams family's elaborate celebrations. The great hall was decorated with live bats, floating jack-o'-lanterns, and illusions of ghosts swooping between tables. Not bad, Harry commented as they entered. Though at home, the decorations are more interactive. I don't want to know, Ron decided, eyeing a particularly large pumpkin nervously. They had just taken their seats when Professor Quirrell came sprinting into the hall, turban askew and terror on his face. Troll, in the dungeons, thought you ought to know, he gasped before collapsing in a dead faint. Chaos erupted as students panicked, only quieting when Dumbledore shot purple firecrackers from his wand and ordered prefects to lead their houses back to dormitories. As they followed Percy toward Gryffindor Tower, Harry grabbed Ron's arm. Wait, Hermione doesn't know about the troll. What do you mean? She's been in the bathroom crying all afternoon after what you said about her having no friends, Harry reminded him. Ron had made some unkind comments after Charms class when Hermione tried to correct his levitation technique. Ron looked guilty. We've got to warn her. But Percy will kill us if we leave the group. Harry's eyes gleamed with an Addams-like excitement. We're not going to warn her. We're going to help her take down a troll. What? Are you mental? It's a full-grown mountain troll. Exactly, Harry grinned. Mother says trolls are remarkably susceptible to precise nerve strikes. Their pain thresholds are high, but their nervous systems have predictable vulnerabilities. And you know how to do these, nerve strikes? Ron asked weakly. Of course. Basic Addams family self-defense. I've been training since I was 6. Before Ron could protest further, Harry pulled him down a deserted side corridor, Mortis slipping out from Harry's robes to scout ahead. They reached the girls' bathroom just as a horrible smell reached their nostrils, a mixture of old socks and public toilets. Then they heard it, a low grunting and the shuffling of enormous feet. The troll was heading straight for the bathroom. Come on. Harry whispered, pulling Ron forward. They burst into the bathroom to find Hermione shrinking against the opposite wall, looking ready to faint as the troll advanced on her, knocking sinks off the walls as it went. Distract it. Harry commanded, slipping his wand into his sleeve and flexing his fingers. Oi, pea-brain! Ron shouted, throwing a metal pipe at the troll's head. The troll turned, confused, giving Harry the opening he needed. With a grace and speed that belied his age, he darted forward, ducked under the troll's club, and delivered 3 rapid strikes to specific points on the troll's leg, side, and finally, after a daring leap that Ron would later describe as completely bonkers, its neck. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The troll froze, its tiny eyes widening in what might have been surprise before rolling back in its head. It toppled backward with a crash that shook the entire bathroom, landing unconscious on the floor. Pressure points, Harry explained casually to his stunned friends. Mother's specialty. Trolls have 3 major nerve clusters that, when struck in sequence, induce temporary paralysis. That was. Hermione seemed at a loss for words. Brilliant. Ron finished for her. Mental, but brilliant. Before they could celebrate further, the bathroom door burst open to reveal Professors McGonagall, Snape, and Quirrell. McGonagall looked furious, Snape calculating, and Quirrell took one look at the troll before whimpering and clutching his heart. What on earth were you thinking? McGonagall demanded, cold fury in her voice. You could have been killed. Why aren't you in your dormitory? To everyone's surprise, Hermione spoke up. "Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me. I went after the troll because I thought I could deal with it because I've read all about them. If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now." Ron looked stunned at this lie, but Harry merely nodded in confirmation, his face impassive in a way that would have made Wednesday proud. "Be that as it may," McGonagall said severely, "it was an extremely foolish thing to do." She then turned to Harry, her expression shifting from anger to bewilderment as she examined the unconscious troll. "How did you manage to overcome a fully grown mountain troll?" "Addams' family defensive techniques," Harry replied matter-of-factly. "Specifically, a 3-point nerve strike designed to temporarily paralyze larger opponents." McGonagall and Snape exchanged glances that contained equal parts concern and reluctant admiration. 5 points from Gryffindor for Miss Granger's serious lack of judgment, McGonagall finally announced. "And 5 points each to Mr. Weasley and Mr. Potter Addams for sheer dumb luck, and apparently effective, if unorthodox, combat skills." As they made their way back to Gryffindor Tower, Ron turned to Harry. "You've got to teach me that nerve strike thing." "It takes years to master," Harry warned. "And Mother usually trained me using live subjects. I don't think Hogwarts has rules to cover that kind of practice." "Probably not," Hermione agreed, looking both grateful and slightly terrified. "But thank you, both of you, for coming to save me." "That's what friends are for," Harry said simply. "Saving each other from mortal danger is an Addams family bonding tradition." From that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend. There are some things you can't share without becoming friends, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll with nerve strikes is one of them. As November brought bitter cold to the castle, Harry's first Quidditch match approached. The morning of the game, he received a package at breakfast containing a small vial of sickly green liquid and a note from Wednesday, "For luck. 1 drop on your tongue before the match. Side effects may include heightened reflexes, mild hallucinations, and temporary immunity to pain. Duration, approximately 2 hours. Don't exceed recommended dosage unless you enjoy out-of-body experiences. Win or die memorably." "Mother, you're not actually going to take that, are you?" Hermione asked, horrified, when Harry showed her the vial. "Of course not," Harry assured her, slipping it into his pocket. "I don't need chemical advantages. Mother just wants me to have options." The match against Slytherin started well enough, with Harry circling high above the action, searching for the snitch. Then, without warning, his broom gave a sudden, violent jerk. It happened again, as if the broom was trying to buck him off. "Something's wrong with Harry's broom," Hagrid exclaimed from the stands, where he had joined Ron and Hermione to watch the match. Harry's nimbus was now rolling over and over, with him only just managing to hold on. Then it started zigzagging through the air, making violent swishing movements that almost unseated him. In the confusion, Harry remembered the modifications Pugsley had made. Clinging desperately with one hand, he managed to execute the quarter turn on the third grip ridge. A thin, silver blade extended from the broom handle, and Harry used it to stab deeply into the wood, creating an anchor point that prevented him from being thrown off. Meanwhile, in the stands, Hermione had borrowed Hagrid's binoculars and was frantically scanning the crowd. "It's Snape," she gasped. "He's jinxing the broom. What should we do?" Ron asked desperately. "Leave it to me," Hermione said, already moving through the crowd toward the teacher's stands. Harry, still fighting his possessed broom, noticed something odd. Quirrell was also staring at him unblinkingly, muttering under his breath. A suspicion formed in Harry's mind, but before he could act on it, his broom suddenly stopped trying to throw him off. Looking down, he saw smoke coming from beneath the teacher's stands, and both Snape and Quirrell breaking their eye contact as they dealt with what appeared to be Hermione's handiwork, their robes on fire. Taking advantage of the distraction, Harry pulled the blade free from his broom and retracted it. The nimbus was responsive again, and he immediately spotted the snitch hovering near the Slytherin goal posts. He dived, reaching for the golden ball, and nearly swallowed it when an unexpected jolt from his broom caused him to pitch forward. The crowd roared as Harry spit the snitch into his hand, ending the game with a Gryffindor victory. Later, as they celebrated in Hagrid's hut, Harry explained his suspicions about Quirrell. It wasn't just Snape, he insisted. Quirrell was casting something too. And whenever he's near me, my scar reacts despite the containment runes. But why would Quirrell try to hurt you? Hermione asked. Snape seems much more likely. He clearly dislikes you, even if he respects your potion skills. Never mind that, Hagrid interjected. Who set fire to the teacher's stands? Someone could have been seriously hurt. Hermione had the grace to look embarrassed. It seemed necessary at the time. Well, go pokin' your noses where they belong, Hagrid warned. Whatever that dog's garden is between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel, Harry and Hermione said in unison. Hagrid looked furious with himself. The alchemist? Harry pressed. The one who created the Philosopher's Stone. How'd you know about that? Hagrid demanded. Harry shrugged. Grandmama has his treatise on advanced transmutation. She uses it for her more experimental potions. So that's what's hidden in the third-floor corridor. I shouldn't have told ya that. Hagrid groaned. Forget I said anything, all of ya. But of course, they did no such thing. The mystery of the Philosopher's Stone and Quirrell's possible involvement consumed their conversations for days afterward. Harry wrote to Wednesday about their discoveries, and her response was swift. Harry, the Philosopher's Stone is a powerful alchemical creation that produces the elixir of life and can transform base metals into gold. If someone is attempting to steal it, they seek either immortality or wealth, or both. Your description of Quirrell's behavior is concerning. The connection to your scar suggests he may have ties to the dark wizard who gave it to you. The containment runes should block such a connection unless the link is unusually powerful. Exercise caution, but do not retreat from danger. Addams' family tradition demands investigation of such mysteries, particularly those involving immortality and/or painful death. I've included a more powerful containment potion for your scar. Apply nightly. Side effects may include vivid nightmares, temporary loss of peripheral vision, and enhanced sensitivity to others' thoughts. Consider these opportunities rather than inconveniences. Mother P.S. Grandmama says if you acquire the stone, she has several experimental uses in mind. Priority would be given to a youth restoration potion for Uncle Fester, who has been feeling his age lately. He failed to survive his last electrocution attempt without assistance. As Christmas approached, Harry learned he would be one of the few students remaining at the castle for the holidays. Ron was staying too, as his parents were visiting his brother Charlie in Romania. You could come to the Burrow with me, Ron had offered. Mum would love to have you. Thank you, but Mother is coming to visit, Harry explained. The Addams family has traditions that must be observed, especially during the winter solstice. The look of relief on Ron's face suggested he wasn't entirely disappointed to avoid witnessing Addams' family holiday traditions. When Harry informed McGonagall of Wednesday's impending visit, the professor looked distinctly uneasy. Your mother is welcome, of course, she said carefully, but I must insist that any activities conform to school regulations. She'll be on her best behavior, Harry promised, which didn't seem to reassure McGonagall at all. Wednesday Addams arrived at Hogwarts on the winter solstice, December 21st, causing a sensation among the few remaining students and staff. Dressed entirely in black as always, with her hair still in tight braids despite being in her 30s, she swept through the entrance hall with the same intimidating presence she'd always possessed. Harry ran to greet her, stopping just short of a hug. Wednesday had never been demonstrative in public. Instead, they exchanged the formal Addams greeting, clasping forearms while touching foreheads briefly. You look well, Wednesday observed. No permanent injuries yet. Disappointing but understandable for a first term. I nearly died during my first Quidditch match, Harry offered. And I defeated a mountain troll using the 3-point nerve strike you taught me. Wednesday's lips curved in a slight smile. Good. Education should be dangerous to be effective. Professor McGonagall approached cautiously to welcome the visitor. Ms. Addams, welcome to Hogwarts. I'm Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress and Harry's head of house. Professor. Wednesday inclined her head slightly. Harry writes that your transfiguration instruction is precise, if unnecessarily limited in scope. McGonagall's eyebrows rose. Limited? He mentioned you discouraged his transformation of matches into ritual daggers. In our family, practical applications are prioritized over academic exercises. Yes, well, McGonagall said stiffly, at Hogwarts, we prefer to ensure students master the fundamentals before moving to potentially dangerous applications. A philosophy that explains much about British wizardry's stagnation, Wednesday commented. But I respect your authority within these walls. Harry understands the importance of adapting to local customs, however limiting they may be. Before McGonagall could respond to this backhanded compliance, Dumbledore arrived, eyes twinkling behind his half-moon spectacles. Ms. Addams. What a pleasure to finally meet Harry's guardian. I am Albus Dumbledore. Headmaster. Wednesday's tone was neutral. Your reputation precedes you. As does yours, Dumbledore said cheerfully. The American magical authorities speak of the Addams family with great respect. Fear is often mislabeled as respect, Wednesday replied. We find it more honest to acknowledge the difference. Dumbledore's smile didn't falter. Indeed. I hope you'll join us for dinner this evening. I've arranged private accommodations for your stay. Thank you. Harry has promised to show me the castle first, particularly the dungeons. My family has a professional interest in subterranean architecture. McGonagall and Dumbledore exchanged glances that suggested they weren't entirely comfortable with this plan but could find no reasonable grounds for objection. Very well, Dumbledore nodded. Harry knows which areas are forbidden to students. I trust he'll guide you accordingly. Wednesday's expression didn't change, but Harry recognized the glint in her eye. The Addams family had always considered forbidden to be more of a challenge than a restriction. As they walked away, Harry whispered, there's a 3-headed dog guarding a trapdoor on the 3rd floor. It's protecting the Philosopher's Stone. Wednesday raised an eyebrow, a significant display of surprise for her. Interesting security choice. Cerberus-type guardian beasts are notoriously susceptible to music. Amateur mistake. There are other protections beyond the dog, Harry explained. We haven't gotten past it yet to see what they are. Yet, Wednesday repeated with approval. Show me this beast. I haven't seen a proper 3-headed dog since your 9th birthday when cousin Ophelia brought that specimen from Greece. Harry led his mother through the castle, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed them. They explored the dungeons first, where Wednesday examined the potions classroom with professional interest. Adequate, was her assessment. Though the ventilation is poor for properly toxic brewing. They encountered Snape in the corridor outside, and Harry made introductions. Professor, this is my mother, Wednesday Addams. Mother, this is Professor Snape, Potions Master. Wednesday and Snape regarded each other with identical expressions of analytical assessment. Ms. Addams, Snape said finally. Harry demonstrates unusual aptitude in my class. His techniques suggest unorthodox training. Grandmama began his education early, Wednesday confirmed. The Addams family believes in practical application from a young age. Harry was brewing basic poisons by 6. Indeed. Snape's expression revealed nothing. His work shows promise, though his commentary on aesthetic death experiences proved disruptive to the educational environment. Sharing family traditions is part of cultural exchange, Wednesday replied. But I understand the need for discretion in certain company. Their conversation continued in this vein, a strange, formal dance of mutual evaluation that seemed to result in a guarded respect between the two intense, black-clad figures. After touring the dungeons, Harry led Wednesday toward the third-floor corridor, carefully avoiding Filch and Mrs. Norris. At the forbidden door, he performed a quick unlocking charm. "Alohomra," he whispered, and the door creaked open. The enormous three-headed dog was asleep, but stirred at their entrance. Before it could fully wake, Wednesday pulled a small flute from her pocket and played a haunting melody that sent the creature back into a deep slumber. "Predictable," she commented, examining the trapdoor beneath one massive paw. "What do you know about the stone itself?" "It creates the elixir of life and turns metal into gold," Harry said. "It belongs to Nicholas Flamel, who's over 600 years old because of it." "Immortality through artificial means," Wednesday mused. "Cheating death rather than embracing it. The Addams approach is superior. We don't fear death, so we don't desperately seek to avoid it." She stopped playing, and they quickly exited before the dog could wake fully. In the corridor, Wednesday turned to Harry with unusual seriousness. "Someone at this school wants the stone. Your letters mentioned Professor Quirrell. What evidence supports your suspicion?" Harry explained the broom incident, the connection to his scar, and the strange behavior he'd observed. "There's something wrong about him. Something hidden. Trust those instincts," Wednesday advised. "The Addams' sensitivity to concealed darkness is rarely mistaken. We'll investigate further during my visit." The great hall was decorated lavishly for Christmas, with 12 towering trees, festoons of holly and mistletoe, and enchanted snow falling from the ceiling. Wednesday regarded it all with the faintest curl of her lip. "Excessive cheer," she commented. "Reminiscent of those unfortunate summers at Camp Chippewa." They joined the staff and remaining students at a single table for dinner. Wednesday's presence created a palpable tension, with most professors watching her warily and students stealing fascinated glances. Only Dumbledore seemed entirely at ease, engaging her in conversation about American magical traditions. "The Salem Witches' Institute is highly regarded," he was saying. "Did you study there, Ms. Addams?" "My education was primarily private," Wednesday replied. "The Addams family maintains its own traditions, separate from standardized magical curricula." "Fascinating. Self-directed magical education is rare these days. What specializations did you pursue?" "Toxicology, ancient curses, combat techniques, and necromancy," Wednesday answered matter-of-factly. "Standard Addams fare." A silence fell over the table. McGonagall looked alarmed, Flitwick nearly choked on his wine, and Quirrell went notably paler than usual. "Necromancy is a forbidden art in Britain," McGonagall said stiffly. "Most worthwhile pursuits are forbidden somewhere," Wednesday responded, cutting her roast beef with surgical precision. "Knowledge itself is neutral. Intent determines morality, not arbitrary classifications." "An interesting philosophy," Dumbledore commented, seemingly unperturbed. "Though I find some magics carry inherent costs that make them difficult to justify regardless of intent. The Addams family has always been willing to pay such costs," Wednesday said simply. "We find value in experiences others consider horrifying." The conversation shifted to safer topics after that, though Harry noticed Wednesday studying Quirrell intently throughout the meal. The defense professor seemed increasingly uncomfortable under her gaze, stuttering more than usual and repeatedly adjusting his turban. After dinner, Wednesday suggested a walk on the grounds. Despite the bitter cold, she seemed perfectly comfortable as they strolled along the edge of the forbidden forest. "That professor, Quirrell," she said once they were alone. "You're right to be suspicious. He radiates concealment magic. Powerful, old magic. Can you tell what he's hiding?" Harry asked eagerly. "Not specifically, but it's concentrated around that ridiculous turban." Wednesday's eyes narrowed. "And it resonates with your scar. The containment runes are holding, but barely. Whatever link exists between you is strong. What should I do?" Wednesday considered for a moment. "Maintain distance when possible. Apply the strengthened containment potion nightly. And prepare for direct confrontation, it seems increasingly likely. You think he'll try for the stone soon? People seeking immortality grow desperate when their goal is near, Wednesday observed. Desperation leads to mistakes. Be vigilant. Their walk took them past Hagrid's hut, where smoke billowed from the chimney. On impulse, Harry knocked on the door, introducing his mother to the gamekeeper when he answered. Hagrid was clearly intimidated by Wednesday but invited them in for tea nonetheless. The cabin was stiflingly hot, with a roaring fire in the grate. Harry immediately noticed something unusual, a large, black egg sitting in the heart of the flames. "Hagrid," he said slowly, "is that a dragon egg?" "Shoo." Hagrid looked around nervously, then nodded. "Won it last night at the pub. Always wanted a dragon." Wednesday moved closer to the fire, examining the egg with professional interest. Norwegian Ridgeback, she identified. Highly aggressive species. Excellent for home defense but legally problematic in populated areas. "You know about dragons?" Hagrid asked, impressed. "My cousin Ophelia raises them in Romania," Wednesday replied. "The Addams estate includes a dragon sanctuary in the lower caverns." "Romania!" Hagrid exclaimed. "That's where Charlie Weasley works." "Weasley." Wednesday seemed to consider the name. "Red hair, freckles, numerous siblings. We may have encountered him." Ophelia mentioned a promising young handler who didn't scream when her horntail singed off his eyebrows. This connection immediately warmed Hagrid to Wednesday, and they spent an hour discussing dragon breeding, care, and the various uses for different parts of the creatures, uses that made Harry take mental notes for future potions experiments. When they finally left Hagrid's hut, Wednesday commented, "That man should have been an Addams. His disregard for safety regulations is commendable." The next day, Christmas morning, Harry woke to find a small pile of presents at the foot of his bed. Ron was already tearing into his own gifts in the next bed over. "Happy Christmas," Ron called cheerfully. "Look what Mum sent you, a Weasley sweater." Sure enough, among Harry's gifts was a hand-knitted emerald green sweater and a large box of homemade fudge. Harry was touched by the gesture from a family he'd never met. From Hermione, he received a box of chocolate frogs. Ron had given him a book titled Quidditch Through the Ages. But the most intriguing package contained something fluid and silvery gray that slithered to the floor like water when he unwrapped it. "That's an invisibility cloak." Ron gasped, dropping his own presents. "They're really rare and valuable." Harry picked up the cloak with wonder, finding a note that had fallen from its folds. "Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. A very happy Christmas to you." There was no signature. "Who's it from?" Ron asked. "It doesn't say," Harry replied, examining the cloak. "It belonged to my father, my birth father." Before they could discuss it further, the dormitory door burst open and Fred and George Weasley bounded in, wearing blue sweaters with a large yellow F and G on them. "Happy Christmas." "Hey, look, Harry's got a Weasley sweater too." The twins insisted Harry put on his new sweater immediately, which he did with a smile. They were just suggesting going down to breakfast when the dormitory door opened again. This time, it was Wednesday who entered, looking as severe as ever in a black dress with silver spiderweb patterns at the collar and cuffs. In her arms, she carried a large, oddly shaped package wrapped in black paper. "Mother," Harry greeted her, somewhat surprised to see her in the boys' dormitory. "How did you get in here?" "The portrait guardian is susceptible to certain persuasive techniques," Wednesday replied vaguely. "I brought your gift from the family." The Weasley twins stared at Wednesday with undisguised fascination. "You're Harry's mum?" George asked. "The Addams one?" "Wednesday Addams," she confirmed with a slight nod. "Wicked," the twins said in unison, looking at her with newfound respect. Wednesday handed Harry the package. "From all of us." Grandmama insisted on adding her contribution, so exercise appropriate caution. Harry unwrapped it to reveal an antique wooden box with the Addams family crest, a stylized letter A surrounded by thorny vines, carved into the lid. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was an assortment of items, a silver dagger with runes etched along the blade, a set of potion vials containing liquids of various ominous colors, a small leather-bound book titled Advanced Necronomics, Communion Beyond the Veil, and what appeared to be a shrunken head on a chain. Uncle Fester sends the dagger, silver iridium alloy, effective against most supernatural entities, Wednesday explained. Grandmama provided the potions, healing, poison, hallucinogenic exploration, and one she refuses to label but suggests saving for, when all hope seems lost. The book is from Morticia and Gomez, and the charm is from Pugsley. It's a Peruvian curse detector, the eyes glow when danger approaches. Ron and the twins were staring at the contents with a mixture of horror and admiration. "Thanks, Mother," Harry said sincerely, examining each item. "Please thank everyone for me. I sent their gifts last week, did they arrive?" "Yes." Grandmama was particularly pleased with the basilisk scales you found in the Chamber of Secrets. "How did you access it without a parcel mouth?" Harry froze, aware of the sudden tension in the room. "I haven't, that is, I didn't." Wednesday's eyes narrowed slightly. "I see. We'll discuss this later." The awkward moment was interrupted by Percy Weasley, who stuck his head through the door to announce breakfast was ready. He did a double take at the sight of Wednesday standing in the boys' dormitory. "Excuse me, madam, but parents aren't permitted in the dormitories without staff escort," he said in his most pompous prefect voice. Wednesday turned her unblinking stare on Percy, who visibly wilted under her gaze. "I was just leaving," she said after a pause just long enough to be uncomfortable. "Harry, I'll see you at breakfast." After she left, Ron turned to Harry. "Blimey, your mum is terrifying." "Cool, but terrifying." "Yeah," Fred agreed. "Does she always look like she's contemplating where to hide the bodies?" "That's just her normal expression," Harry explained. "She's actually in a good mood today. You can tell because she didn't threaten Percy with disembowelment for trying to enforce rules." The Christmas feast that afternoon was spectacular, with hundreds of roast turkeys, mountains of potatoes, boats of gravy, and wizard crackers that banged like cannons and released live mice and non-removable hats. Dumbledore wore a flowered bonnet he'd gotten from a cracker and laughed merrily at a joke Professor Flitwick read him. Wednesday, seated beside Harry at the table, regarded the revelry with her usual stoic detachment. She did, however, demonstrate a surprising appreciation for the magical crackers, particularly after discovering one that released a cloud of bats instead of the usual mice. Marginally entertaining, she conceded, watching the bats circle the hall before escaping through the windows. After dinner, Harry, Ron, and Wednesday walked the snowy grounds, discussing the mysterious invisibility cloak and its possible donor. "Dumbledore seems the likely source," Wednesday observed. "Though his motivation for returning it now is unclear. Such a gift provides opportunities for rule-breaking he surely anticipates." "Maybe he wants me to break rules," Harry suggested. "The third-floor corridor, the stone." "Possible. Adults often set children challenges while pretending to forbid them. A tiresome practice." Ron looked bewildered. "You think Dumbledore wants Harry to go after the stone?" "I think," Wednesday said carefully, "that very little happens in this castle without the headmaster's awareness. Harry's confrontation with whoever seeks the stone may be inevitable, and perhaps even orchestrated." "That's mental," Ron protested. "He wouldn't put students in danger on purpose." Wednesday's expression didn't change. "You have a naive view of authority figures. In my experience, they frequently place children in danger to achieve greater goals." That evening, after Ron had fallen asleep, Harry showed Wednesday his invisibility cloak. "Its flawless construction," she observed, running the material through her fingers. "Old magic, likely goblin-enhanced. An excellent tool for your nocturnal explorations." I was thinking of trying it out tonight, Harry admitted. There's a restricted section in the library that might have information about the stone. A reasonable approach, Wednesday approved. I'll accompany you. 2 can fit under this cloak, and there may be protective enchantments I can identify. Their midnight expedition to the library went smoothly at first. Under the cloak's protection, they slipped past Filch and Mrs. Norris, entering the restricted section without detection. Wednesday expertly identified and neutralized the alarm spells on several of the more dangerous volumes. Basic protective enchantments, she commented. Designed to detect students, not trained adults. They found several references to Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone, confirming what they already knew about its powers of immortality and wealth creation. More interestingly, they discovered notes on the stone's magical properties that suggested it could be used for more than the standard applications. Grandmama would find this fascinating, Wednesday murmured, copying several passages into a small notebook she produced from her pocket. The transmutative properties could be applied to certain necrotic processes. Their research was interrupted by an approaching light, Filch, responding to a noise elsewhere in the library. They quickly replaced the books and slipped back under the cloak, making their escape through a side door that led into an unfamiliar corridor. They moved silently through the castle, eventually finding themselves in an abandoned classroom. The room was empty except for a magnificent mirror standing in the center, as high as the ceiling, with an ornate gold frame inscribed with the words, Erist stra eru oit uba kafru oit anwosi. The mirror of Erist, Wednesday identified immediately. A dangerous artifact that shows the viewer's deepest desire. It's been known to drive people mad with longing. Harry approached the mirror cautiously. What will I see? That depends entirely on what you truly desire, Wednesday replied. Be prepared for potentially disturbing insights into your own psyche. Harry stood before the mirror and gasped. He saw himself, but not alone. Standing behind his reflection were 2 groups of people, on one side, a man with untidy black hair and glasses and a pretty woman with dark red hair and eyes exactly like his, on the other side, the entire Addams family, Wednesday, Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, Fester, Grandmama, Lurch and Thing. His birth parents and his adoptive family, together, smiling at him with pride. What do you see? Wednesday asked, watching his face carefully. Harry described the vision, his voice thick with emotion. They're all together, both my families, like they belong together somehow. Wednesday's expression softened imperceptibly. An interesting desire. Not power or glory, but connection between your 2 legacies. What would you see? Harry asked. Wednesday considered for a moment, then stepped in front of the mirror. Her face remained impassive, but Harry noticed her eyes widen slightly. Fascinating, she murmured. What is it? I see myself, she said quietly, teaching you in the family crypt. You're older, powerful, confident, mastering spells even I find challenging. Behind us stands a defeated figure in a dark cloak, on his knees. Voldemort? Harry guessed. Perhaps. The face is unclear. But the meaning is evident. I desire your triumph and growth, your full development as both Potter and Addams. Harry felt a surge of warmth at this rare glimpse into his mother's feelings. Wednesday might not express affection conventionally, but in her own way, she cared deeply about his well-being and success. We should leave, Wednesday said, turning away from the mirror. This object is seductive and potentially destructive. Many have wasted away before it, unable to separate vision from reality. As they made their way back to Gryffindor Tower under the cloak, Harry asked, what did the inscription say? It looked like nonsense. Read backward, Wednesday explained. I show not your face but your heart's desire. Simple code, though effectively dramatic. At the portrait hole, Wednesday paused. I return to the Addams mansion tomorrow. Your letters suggest the situation with the stone may escalate soon. Remember your training. The family techniques I've taught you will serve where conventional magic might fail. I'll be careful, Harry promised. Don't be careful, Wednesday corrected. Be effective. There's a difference. She performed the formal Addams farewell, pressing her forehead to his briefly, then turned and disappeared down the dark corridor, her black dress melding with the shadows until she seemed to vanish entirely. January brought the return of students and the resumption of classes. Harry shared the information he and Wednesday had gathered about the Philosopher's Stone with Ron and Hermione, though he omitted certain details about the Addams family's interest in its necrotic applications. So Snape, or Quirrell, whoever's trying to steal it wants immortality or gold, Ron summarized. Mother thinks it's Quirrell, Harry said. She sensed powerful concealment magic around him, especially his turban. But Snape was trying to jinx your broom during the match, Hermione argued. Or trying to counter Quirrell's jinx, Harry suggested. We need more information. They found an opportunity to gather intelligence during the next Quidditch match, Hufflepuff versus Gryffindor. Snape was refereeing, which everyone found suspicious, but Harry was more interested in watching Quirrell, who would be in the stands unobserved while attention focused on the game. You cover the match, he told Ron and Hermione. I'm going to follow Quirrell if he leaves. Sure enough, once the game began with all eyes on Snape's biased refereeing, Harry noticed Quirrell slipping away from the stands. Under the invisibility cloak, he followed the defense professor toward the castle. Quirrell moved with purpose, his usual stutter and nervous demeanor gone. He headed straight for the third-floor corridor, muttering to himself in a low voice. Almost time, when Dumbledore leaves for the Ministry. More disturbingly, he appeared to be having a conversation with someone who wasn't there, occasionally tilting his head as if listening to a voice only he could hear. Harry followed as closely as he dared, remembering Wednesday's warning about the danger Quirrell represented. At the forbidden door, the professor paused, drew his wand, and cast a complex spell that made the lock click open without the simple Alohomora charm they had used. Inside, Harry could hear the growls of the three-headed dog. Quirrell produced a small harp, bewitched it to play, and slipped through the door as the growls subsided into heavy breathing. Harry waited outside, not willing to risk following further without backup. After about 10 minutes, Quirrell emerged, looking frustrated. Curse that sprout woman and her plants, he muttered. We'll need a stronger herbicide. He stopped suddenly, looking around as if sensing a presence. Harry held his breath, remaining absolutely still under the cloak as Quirrell's eyes passed over his location. Who's there? Quirrell demanded, his stutter completely absent. Show yourself. When no one appeared, the professor's face contorted with anger. He raised his wand and cast a revealing spell that sent a wave of magic through the corridor. Harry felt it wash over him, but the cloak's protection held, another testament to its extraordinary quality. Quirrell stalked away, his gait stiff with suppressed rage. Harry waited until he was well out of sight before racing back to the Quidditch pitch, where he arrived just in time to see the end of the match, a Gryffindor victory secured by their reserve seeker, Katie Bell. Harry immediately pulled Ron and Hermione aside to report what he'd witnessed. It's definitely Quirrell, he concluded. He's planning to steal the stone when Dumbledore is away. And I think he's working with someone else. He was talking to a person who wasn't there. Could be just talking to himself, Ron suggested. The man's not exactly stable. No, Harry insisted. It was a conversation. And he dropped his stutter completely, it's an act. What should we do? Hermione asked. Tell Dumbledore. Harry considered this. Not yet. We need more proof. And we need to know what other protections are guarding the stone beyond the dog. How do we figure that out? Ron wondered. We go through the trapdoor ourselves, Harry decided. Tonight. Are you mental? Ron exclaimed. There's a three-headed dog down there. Which can be put to sleep with music, Harry reminded him. Mother confirmed it when she visited. We'll bring a flute. Hermione looked torn between academic curiosity and healthy fear. We could be expelled, or killed. Mother says experience is the best teacher, especially when it might be fatal, Harry said matter-of-factly. The worst that happens is we die educationally fulfilling deaths. That is not reassuring. Hermione protested. Despite their reservations, both Ron and Hermione agreed to the plan. That night, under the cover of the invisibility cloak, the 3 first-years made their way to the third-floor corridor. Harry brought a small flute Hagrid had given him for Christmas, along with several items from the Addams family gift box, just in case. The door was already unlocked when they arrived, which immediately put them on alert. "Someone's been here," Harry whispered. "Quirrell may have already gone through." They entered cautiously to find the enormous dog already asleep, a harp playing softly in the corner. "Quirrell's been here," Hermione confirmed. "Look." The trapdoor was open. They approached carefully, peering down into the darkness below. "I can't see the bottom," Ron said nervously. "Only one way to find out what's down there," Harry replied, putting the shrunken head charm around his neck, the curse detector Wednesday had mentioned. "I'll go first." Before his friends could stop him, Harry jumped into the hole. He fell for what seemed like ages before landing on something soft and yielding, a plant of some kind. Ron and Hermione followed moments later. "Lucky this plant thing's here," Ron commented. "Lucky?" Hermione shrieked. "Look at us." The plant had begun to twist snake-like tendrils around their legs. Harry recognized it immediately from Grandmama's greenhouse. "Devil's snare," he exclaimed. "It likes dark and damp, so light a fire." Hermione cried, struggling against the tightening tendrils. "No need," Harry said calmly. From his pocket, he withdrew one of Grandmama's potion vials, a bright orange liquid. "Devil's snare is susceptible to certain botanical toxins." He uncorked the vial and splashed a few drops onto the plant around each of them. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The tendrils recoiled as if burned, writhing away from the liquid with what sounded almost like screams of plant agony. "What was that?" Hermione asked as they dropped through to a stone passage below. "Grandmama's special herbicide," Harry explained. "Works on most magical strangulation plants. She developed it after Uncle Fester's unfortunate incident with the man-eating kudzu." They followed the passage until they reached a chamber filled with flying keys and broomsticks. After identifying and catching the correct key, with Harry's seeker skills proving invaluable, they passed into a room containing a giant wizard's chess set. "We have to play our way across," Ron realized, taking command of the situation. The game was brutal, with pieces smashing each other to rubble when they were taken. Ron navigated them through with brilliant strategy, ultimately sacrificing himself to allow Harry and Hermione to continue. "Ron!" Hermione cried as a white queen smashed their friend to the floor. "He's alive," Harry confirmed, checking quickly. "Just knocked out. We need to keep going, Quirrell might already have the stone." The next chamber contained a troll, larger than the one they'd faced at Halloween, but already unconscious with a bloody lump on its head. "Quirrell's work," Harry guessed as they hurried past. They entered a room where purple flames sprang up behind them and black flames blocked the way forward. A table with 7 differently shaped bottles stood between them, along with a parchment containing a logical riddle. Hermione solved it quickly, identifying a small bottle that would allow passage through the black flames. "There's only enough for one of us," she noted. "I'll go," Harry said immediately. "You go back, get Ron, and send an owl to Dumbledore." "But Harry, what if you know who is with Quirrell?" Harry touched the scar on his forehead, feeling the protective runes containing whatever darkness lurked within. "Then I'll finally meet him properly. Mother has been preparing me for this possibility for years." "Harry, please be careful," Hermione begged. "You're brilliant, but you're still just an 11-year-old. "Maybe," Harry agreed. "But I'm an Addams 11-year-old. That makes a difference." After Hermione departed through the purple flames, Harry drank the potion for the black flames and stepped through, feeling ice flood his body instead of fire as he passed. He found himself in the final chamber, where a familiar figure stood before the mirror of Ariste, but it wasn't Quirrell. "Professor Snape," Harry said in genuine surprise. The potion's master turned, his face grim. "Potter. I should have known you'd meddle. Where is your insufferable curiosity inherited from, I wonder, your arrogant father or your foolhardy mother?" "I think it's the Addams influence, actually," Harry replied, slowly reaching into his pocket for one of Grandmama's potions. "They encourage dangerous exploration. But I'm confused, I was expecting Professor Quirrell." Snape's eyebrow rose. "Quirrell? That stuttering incompetent?" He laughed coldly. "A clever deduction, but incorrect. Now step aside. This doesn't concern you. If you're trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone, it does," Harry said, standing his ground. "Especially if you're working for Voldemort." Snape flinched at the name. "You dare speak," he was interrupted as the chamber door burst open again, and Quirrell rushed in, no trace of his stutter or nervous demeanor. "Severus," he said coldly. "I wondered if you'd interfere." Snape spun to face the newcomer, positioning himself between Harry and Quirrell. "I might say the same to you, Quirinus. Playing the fool all year while serving your new master." Harry realized with a jolt that both men had been suspicious of each other, neither was working with the other. But which one was the real threat? The answer came from an unexpected source. The shrunken head around Harry's neck suddenly glowed with an eerie green light, its eyes focusing directly on Quirrell. "The curse detector," Harry murmured. "It's him." "What's that, Potter?" Quirrell demanded, noticing the glowing charm. "Addams' family curse detector," Harry explained calmly, drawing his wand. "It identifies dark magic. And it's pointing right at you, or more specifically, at whatever you're hiding under that turban." Quirrell's face contorted with rage. "Clever boy. Too clever for your own good. Just like your parents before they died begging for mercy, they did no such thing," Snape interrupted, his voice deadly quiet. "And neither will the boy." Harry was shocked to find Snape defending him, but had no time to dwell on it as Quirrell raised his wand. "Enough of this. Neither of you can stop what's coming. My master will have the stone, and then he will deal with the boy who lived once and for all." "Your master?" Harry asked, though he already suspected the answer. The curse detector was growing hotter against his chest, pulsing with warning. "Yes, Potter. My master, who has shown me the truth about power and how to attain it." With a dramatic gesture, Quirrell began unwinding his turban. The back of his head revealed a face, the most terrible face Harry had ever seen. Chalk white with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils, like a snake. "Harry Potter," it whispered. "We meet again." "Voldemort," Harry said, and he was surprised to find his voice steady. "Yes," the face hissed. "See what I have become. Mere shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. But once I have the elixir of life, I can create a body of my own." Snape had gone very still, his wand trained on Quirrell/Voldemort, his face a mask of hatred and fear. "The stone," Voldemort continued. "Where is it? I know it's hidden in this mirror. Help me, boy, help me retrieve it, and I may yet spare your life." "Unlikely," Harry replied in his best Wednesday tone. "Mother says never trust someone who's already tried to kill you once. Family policy." A horrible laugh came from Voldemort's face. "Your mother? That gothic aberration who stole you away? The great Harry Potter, raised by carnival freaks instead of taking his rightful place in the wizarding world. The Addams family," Harry said with quiet dignity, "taught me to embrace what others fear. Including you." With that, he uncorked the unmarked vial from Grandmama, the one Wednesday had said to save for, when all hope seems lost, and threw it directly at Quirrell's face. The potion exploded on contact, releasing a cloud of shimmering black smoke that surrounded both Professor and Parasite. Voldemort's scream was inhuman. Quirrell's body began to convulse, his skin blistering and cracking where the potion had touched. The dark smoke seeped into these cracks, causing them to glow with an internal fire. "What have you done?" Snape demanded, shielding his face from the smoke. "Grandmama's special blend," Harry explained, backing away. "She didn't label it, but the effects suggest a combination of soul repellent and flesh-decaying agents." Quirrell stumbled forward, reaching for Harry with burning hands. "Master, it hurts. Help me." Acting on pure instinct, or perhaps guidance from years of Wednesday's training, Harry didn't retreat but instead stepped forward to meet the attack. He grabbed Quirrell's outstretched hand, and to his amazement, the contact caused even more agony to his opponent. Wherever Harry touched, Quirrell's skin burned and crumbled. "This is unexpected," Harry commented, maintaining his grip despite Quirrell's screams. "But effective. Kill him." Voldemort shrieked from the back of Quirrell's head. Harry lunged forward, pressing both hands to Quirrell's face. The burning intensified, Quirrell's features disintegrating beneath his touch. A cloud of dark vapor began to rise from the dissolving body, Voldemort's essence, Harry realized, abandoning its failing host. The last thing Harry remembered was Snape shouting an incantation, a flash of silver light, and the vapor fleeing through the chamber wall with an unearthly howl of rage. Then darkness claimed him. He woke in the hospital wing, surrounded by concerned faces, Dumbledore, McGonagall, and to his surprise, Wednesday, who must have returned to Hogwarts upon hearing of the incident. "Welcome back, Harry," Dumbledore said gently. "You've had quite an adventure." "The stone?" Harry asked immediately. "Safe," Dumbledore assured him. "Nicholas Flamel and I have decided it's best to destroy it, however. Too dangerous in the wrong hands." "Grandmama will be disappointed," Harry murmured, drawing a raised eyebrow from McGonagall. Wednesday moved closer to his bed, her pale face revealing nothing to those who didn't know her well, but Harry could detect the subtle signs of relief in her eyes. "You applied the unmarked potion correctly," she observed. "Good instincts." "It seemed the appropriate moment for last resorts," Harry replied. "Was it a soul repellent?" "Among other things," Wednesday confirmed. "Grandmama calls it her essence expulsion elixir. Designed to force parasitic spirits from their hosts. The flesh melting was an unfortunate side effect." "Unfortunate?" McGonagall repeated weakly. "The professor was already lost," Dumbledore said quietly. "Voldemort's possession was too complete. You did what was necessary, Harry." "What happened to Professor Snape?" Harry asked. "He was there too. I thought he was after the stone, but then he defended me." "Professor Snape," Dumbledore explained, "has been helping me protect the stone all year. He suspected Quirrell from the beginning." "But he hates me," Harry said, confused. "He has complicated feelings about you," Dumbledore hedged. "But hate? No, I don't believe so." Wednesday's eyes narrowed slightly at this evasion, but she said nothing. "What about Ron and Hermione?" Harry asked. "Both fine," McGonagall assured him. "Mr. Weasley suffered a mild concussion but recovered quickly. Miss Granger was unharmed." "And how was I able to burn Quirrell with my touch?" Harry asked. "That wasn't the potion's effect." Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "Ah, that was your mother's protection, your birth mother, Lily. She died to save you, and that kind of sacrifice leaves a mark." He gestured not to Harry's scar but to his heart. "Love, Harry. Voldemort cannot understand it, and therefore cannot touch someone marked by it." Wednesday made a small noise that might have been skepticism. "An interesting theory. Though the containment runes around Harry's scar may have contributed by channeling that protection more effectively." "Indeed, Ms. Addams," Dumbledore acknowledged with a slight bow. "Your family's interventions have certainly shaped Harry's magical development in unexpected ways." After the professors left to give Harry time to rest, Wednesday remained by his bedside. You confronted the dark wizard who killed your parents, she stated. How do you feel? Harry considered the question seriously. Satisfied that my training prepared me. Though the touch burning was a surprise. Magic responds to bloodline and sacrifice, Wednesday said thoughtfully. Your birth mother's protection, amplified by the Addams techniques we've taught you. An effective combination. He'll come back, won't he? Harry asked. Voldemort. He's still out there. Yes. Wednesday didn't sugarcoat it. Spirits that powerful rarely rest, especially when anchored to this realm by obsession. Your continued existence offends him. What should I do? Continue learning. Grow stronger. The Addams family has survived countless enemies over generations by being more dangerous than whatever hunts us. She placed a cool hand briefly on his forehead. You are both Potter and Addams now. Both legacies give you strength. Harry nodded, comforted by her pragmatic assessment. Will you stay for the end of your feast? Yes. Grandmama is particularly interested in your experience with the soul repellent. She wants detailed notes on the flesh-melting side effect for potential improvements. Harry grinned. Only an Addams would consider faster flesh-melting an improvement. The end-of-year feast was a triumphant occasion for Gryffindor. Due to Harry, Ron, and Hermione's exploits, which had somehow become known throughout the school despite Dumbledore's attempts at discretion, Gryffindor won the House Cup, breaking Slytherin's 7-year winning streak. Wednesday attended the feast, drawing curious stares from students who had heard rumors about Harry Potter Addams' intimidating adoptive mother. She sat at the staff table between Snape and McGonagall, engaging both in what appeared to be intense conversation. What do you think they're talking about? Ron wondered, watching the three black-clad figures with fascination. With Mother? Probably poisons, advanced transfiguration, or protective curses, Harry guessed. She seems to respect both of them professionally. Snape doesn't look like he wants to murder her, which is practically a declaration of love by his standards, Ron observed. Hermione was more focused on their upcoming exam results, though even she had to admit their adventure with the Philosopher's Stone had been educational, if terrifying. Next year should be calmer, she predicted optimistically. Now that you know who has been driven away again. Harry exchanged glances with Ron, neither believing this for a moment. With his scar, the Addams family connection, and Voldemort still out there, Harry's time at Hogwarts was unlikely to ever be calm. As they boarded the Hogwarts Express the next day, Harry found himself looking forward to summer at the Addams mansion. He'd invited Ron and Hermione to visit, which they'd accepted with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Mother says we can explore the catacombs beneath the house, he told them enthusiastically. There's supposed to be a lost civilization down there. Uncle Fester tried to find it once but got distracted by some glowing fungus that made him hallucinate for a week. Sounds lovely, Hermione said weakly. Just promise your family won't poison us, Ron pleaded. Accidentally or on purpose. Harry grinned. I'll tell Grandmama to clearly label anything lethal. And Mother promised to keep the man-eating plants locked up while you visit. As the train pulled away from Hogsmeade Station, Harry looked out the window at the receding castle. His first year at Hogwarts had been everything Wednesday had prepared him for, dangerous, educational, and filled with opportunities to demonstrate Addams' family values in unexpected situations. Are you excited to go home? Hermione asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. Yes, Harry said sincerely. But Hogwarts has become a second home too. The best of both worlds, Potter and Addams together. He touched the lightning scar on his forehead, now surrounded by the protective runes that contained its darkness. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever Voldemort planned, Harry would face it with the confidence his unusual upbringing had instilled in him. After all, as Wednesday always said, normal is an illusion. What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly. And Harry Potter Addams was definitely not normal. Chapter 3, Blood calls to blood. Harry stepped off the Hogwarts Express onto platform 9 3/4, immediately spotting Wednesday waiting for him. She stood perfectly still amid the chaos of reuniting families, a black-clad statue drawing nervous glances from passing wizards. "Mother," Harry greeted her, performing the formal Addams greeting, clasping forearms while touching foreheads briefly. "Harry." Wednesday's lips curved in the barest hint of a smile. "Successful first year. One near-death experience, multiple rule violations, and the vanquishing of a dark wizard. Grandfather will be pleased." "The family's waiting?" Harry asked, as Mortis emerged from his robes to perch on his shoulder, wings unfurling. "Everyone gathered for your return. Uncle Fester prepared something explosive." Ron and Hermione approached cautiously, having just said goodbye to the Weasleys. "Mrs. Addams," Hermione said, extending her hand nervously, "thank you for inviting us to visit this summer." Wednesday regarded the outstretched hand for a moment before shaking it. "You helped keep Harry alive during his confrontation with Voldemort. The Addams family acknowledges such debts." Ron gulped. "It was mostly Harry, really. The nerve strikes and that potion that melted Quirrell's face." "Nevertheless," Wednesday continued, "arrangements have been made. You'll both visit in August after Harry has completed his summer education regimen." "Summer education?" Hermione perked up. "Advanced curse detection, venomous plant identification, and preliminary soul magic," Wednesday explained. "Standard Addams curriculum." "Soul magic?" Ron squeaked. "Is that even legal?" "Legal is a flexible concept." Wednesday turned and began walking toward the barrier. "Come, Harry. Lurch is waiting with the car. We've removed the spikes from the passenger seats for your trip home." Harry grinned at his friends. "See you in August. I'll send Mortis with the details." "Is that safe?" Hermione asked, eyeing the shadow mink dubiously. "Probably not," Harry admitted cheerfully. "But he usually delivers letters without eating the recipients." "Usually." He hurried after Wednesday, leaving his friends looking slightly shell-shocked on the platform. The Addams mansion looked exactly as Harry remembered, imposing, Gothic, surrounded by dead trees, and radiating an aura of delightful menace. The moment they pulled through the gates in the ancient Packard, driven by Lurch with funeral dignity, Harry felt the familiar comfort of home. "We've prepared a welcome celebration," Wednesday informed him as they approached the front door. Pugsley insisted on fireworks. "Should I take cover?" Harry asked, only half joking. "I convinced him to reduce the explosive radius to 50 feet. The neighbors complained last time." The massive door swung open before they reached it, revealing the entire Addams clan assembled in the foyer. Gomez leapt forward first, mustache twitching with excitement. "Harry, my boy," he exclaimed, grabbing Harry's hand and pumping it vigorously. "Splendid return. I hear you faced certain death with aplomb." "I tried to make it memorable," Harry replied, earning an approving nod from Morticia, who glided forward to brush a cold kiss against his forehead. "Darling boy," she murmured. "We've missed your youthful exuberance around the torture chamber." Pugsley bounded up next, now sporting a wild beard that appeared to have been singed recently. "Kid! Wait till you see the welcome home surprise. I've rigged the entire West Wing with synchronized detonators." Grandmama hobbled over, peering at Harry critically. "You're too healthy looking," she declared. "School food must be disappointingly nutritious." "I'll fix that," got a nice batch of tomb mold soup simmering. Uncle Fester, completely bald and wild-eyed as ever, threw an arm around Harry's shoulders. "The boy faced Voldemort and survived. Again. That's the Addams spirit. Death is for other people." Harry beamed, warmed by his family's macabre affection. Thing skittered up his arm to pat his cheek in greeting, while Lurch groaned what might have been, "Welcome home, young master," as he carried in Harry's trunk. I've maintained your collection of venomous specimens in your absence, Wednesday told Harry as they headed upstairs. Though the two-headed cobra escaped briefly and consumed the mailman. Fortunately, he was delivering only bills. Harry's bedroom remained exactly as he'd left it, black wallpaper adorned with silver spiderweb patterns, a four-poster bed with dark curtains, shelves lined with specimens in jars, and his collection of cursed objects carefully arranged on a special table. Charlotte, his black widow spider, had spun an elaborate web in the corner with what appeared to be, "Welcome back Harry," worked into the design. "Charlotte remembered me," Harry said, touched. "She's been saving particularly juicy flies for your return," Wednesday noted. She clearly anticipated a reunion. Harry set Mortis down on the bed, where the shadow mink immediately began investigating the room, wings half extended. "It's good to be home." Wednesday nodded, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. "Dinner is at 7. Grandmama prepared all your favorites. The screaming should begin around 6:30 when she harvests the final ingredients." Dinner with the Addams family was exactly the chaotic, darkly joyful event Harry had missed while at Hogwarts. The long table in the cavernous dining room groaned under the weight of Grandmama's dubious culinary creations, everything from henbane-infused roast to what she claimed was authentic mummy jerky. 1,200 years aged, she cackled, passing Harry a particularly desiccated strip. "Found it in that nice sarcophagus in the basement." "Exquisite," Morticia commented, sipping what appeared to be hemlock tea. The ancients truly understood proper food preservation. Gomez stood to propose a toast, brandishing a goblet of something that bubbled ominously. "To Harry. Carrying on the finest Addams traditions at Hogwarts. Embracing danger, defying death, and terrifying authority figures." "To Harry," everyone echoed, raising their glasses. "Now," Pugsley said eagerly, "tell us about the encounter with Voldemort." Wednesday's letter mentioned face-melting. Harry recounted his confrontation in the chamber, describing Quirrell's possession and the effects of both Grandmama's potion and his own touch. The family listened with expressions of delight and professional interest. "Soul repellent and flesh dissolution combined," Grandmama mused, tapping her gnarled fingers against the table. "I didn't anticipate the synergy, but it's a welcome discovery. I'll add it to my notes." "And the burning touch, fascinating manifestation of sacrificial protection," Morticia added. "Ancient magic, primal and beautiful in its brutality." "The question," Wednesday interjected, "is how Voldemort survived his first encounter with Harry. Spirits typically don't linger without anchors." Gomez leaned forward, suddenly serious. "No ordinary wizard could survive the rebounding of a killing curse, even as a spirit. He must have taken precautions, dark magic of the most dangerous kind. Something that ties his soul to the mortal realm," Morticia agreed. "Few such methods exist, and all require terrible sacrifice." Harry looked between them. "You think he did some kind of ritual before he came after my parents? Something to make sure he couldn't die?" "Precisely," Wednesday nodded. "Which means destroying his body isn't enough. Whatever anchors his soul must be identified and eliminated." "A summer research project," Gomez declared, brightening. "Nothing brings family together like investigating immortality rituals." "To the library." The Addams family library occupied the entire east wing of the mansion's third floor, a vast, gloomy chamber filled with ancient tomes, forbidden grimoires, and scrolls in languages long dead to the outside world. Towering shelves reached to the ceiling, accessible by a system of precarious ladders that rolled along brass rails. Harry had spent countless childhood hours here, often curled in the window seat with some gruesome text while storm clouds gathered outside. It felt right to return to this sanctuary with a new dark mystery to solve. "We'll start with soul magic fundamentals," Wednesday decided, pulling several heavy volumes from a shelf. "Immortality practices across cultures. Focus on methods requiring murder as a catalyst. Given what we know of Voldemort, he wouldn't hesitate to kill." Gomez nodded, disappearing into the Forbidden Necromancy section while Morticia consulted ancient Egyptian scrolls on spiritual preservation. Uncle Fester, surprisingly scholarly despite his manic energy, collected texts on dark wizard history. Start with Herpo the Foul, he suggested, dropping a moldering tome before Harry. First recorded wizard to achieve sustained partial immortality through soul fragmentation. Horcruxes, Grandmama muttered, the word sounding like a curse itself. Nasty business. Splits the soul, ruins the magical resonance. Makes for terrible potion ingredients afterward. Harry opened the ancient text, finding yellowed pages covered in spidery text and disturbing illustrations. Is this what you think Voldemort did? Created a Horcrux? Wednesday leaned over his shoulder, studying the page. It matches his symptoms, the spirit form, the ability to possess others, the sustained consciousness despite bodily destruction. The question is how many he made. How many? Harry looked up, startled. You can make more than one. Theoretically, Morticia said, joining them with her own stack of research. Though each division would further destabilize the soul. Most practitioners limited themselves to a single Horcrux due to the spiritual damage. But if Voldemort feared death enough. Wednesday let the implication hang. Then we need to find however many he created and destroy them, Harry concluded. Before he finds another way to return to physical form. Gomez clapped his hands together. A family quest. Seeking and destroying pieces of the darkest wizard of the age. What marvelous summer entertainment. Harry grinned. Only in the Addams family would hunting soul fragments be considered quality vacation time. Where do we start looking, he asked. Wednesday considered. We need more information about his past, his real identity, significant locations, meaningful objects. The Horcruxes would be hidden, protected, likely items of personal significance. I'll contact our British connections, Morticia offered. The old wizarding families may have knowledge they don't even realize is relevant. And I'll consult my old adventuring journals, Gomez added. Encountered some fascinating dark wizards in my youth during that expedition to Albania. Might find a connection. Harry felt a surge of gratitude for his strange, wonderful family. At Hogwarts, adults might have shielded him from such dangerous knowledge or insisted he leave Voldemort to them. But the Addams family respected his connection to this fight and included him as an equal partner in their research. I think, Harry said slowly, there might already be a connection we've overlooked. Wednesday raised an eyebrow, her expression for intrigued curiosity. Harry touched his scar. This. Grandmama's containment runes suppress whatever dark magic is inside, but it's still there. What if it's related to Voldemort's Horcruxes somehow? A hushed silence fell over the library. Wednesday and Morticia exchanged meaningful glances. The night he disappeared, Wednesday said carefully, I found residual energy trying to attach to you. We've always treated it as contamination, foreign magic that needed containment. But what if it's more? Harry pressed. What if it's actually a piece of him? Grandmama approached, peering at Harry's forehead with new intensity. The boy might be right. The containment has always been unusually difficult, the energy particularly resistant. Consistent with soul fragment behavior, not mere magical residue. We need to examine it more closely, Wednesday decided. Without removing the containment completely, that would be dangerous until we understand exactly what we're dealing with. To the laboratory. Gomez declared. The Addams family laboratory occupied the entirety of the basement level, a massive chamber filled with bubbling cauldrons, strange apparatus, specimen cases, and workstations dedicated to various arcane practices. One corner housed Grandmama's extensive potion setup, another contained Uncle Fester's electrical experiments, while a third featured Morticia's rare plant cultivation. Wednesday led Harry to the central examination area, where a stone table surrounded by crystalline sensors and ancient runic circles dominated the space. Lie down, she instructed. We'll perform a full spectral analysis of the scar's magical signature. Harry complied, watching as his family moved with unexpected coordination, each taking up positions around the table. Morticia brought forward a silver bowl containing what looked like liquid darkness, while Wednesday prepared a series of crystals arranged in a specific pattern. "This won't hurt," Wednesday told him. "Though you may experience temporary displacement of consciousness, vivid hallucinations, or brief death." "Standard procedure." "Brief death?" Harry repeated. 5 minutes maximum, Grandmama assured him. "We have excellent resuscitation techniques." Before Harry could decide if this was reassuring, Wednesday began the ritual, speaking words in a language that seemed to slide off Harry's consciousness without leaving meaning behind. The crystals around him began to glow with eerie light as Morticia dripped the liquid darkness onto his scar. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming, like being pulled backward through his own mind into someplace else entirely. Visions flashed before him, a handsome dark-haired boy standing in a stone chamber, a massive snake coiling around a chair, a small black diary, and finally, a scream of rage that seemed to come from inside his own head. Then, abruptly, he was back on the table, gasping for breath while the Addams family looked down at him with expressions ranging from clinical interest to excitement. "Fascinating," Wednesday said, studying a parchment where runic symbols had appeared. "The signature is unmistakable, soul fragment, partially merged with Harry's own magical core but still distinct." "Did you see the visions?" Harry asked, sitting up shakily. "We observed their reflection in the sensor crystals," Morticia confirmed. "Most illuminating. The diary, particularly, seemed significant." "A Horcrux," Wednesday concluded. "Possibly his first, given the youthful appearance of the figure associated with it. And the connection to your scar suggests an unintended transfer, a fragment that broke off during the killing curse rebound. So I'm carrying a piece of Voldemort's soul?" Harry asked, surprisingly calm about this revelation. "Contained and controlled," Wednesday reminded him. "But yes. The question now becomes whether to remove it or use it." "Use it?" Harry repeated. Gomez nodded enthusiastically. "Strategic advantage, my boy. A direct line to the enemy's thoughts and memories. Classic espionage opportunity. But dangerous," Morticia cautioned. "Such connections work both ways. If the fragment becomes aware of Harry's access, it might reverse the flow of information." "We maintain the containment," Wednesday decided firmly. "But adjust it to allow controlled access under specific conditions. Harry should be able to use the connection when advantageous but block it when vulnerable." Grandmama was already shuffling through her grimoire. "I'll modify the suppression potion. Add clarity components and directional filters. The boy should be able to peek without being seen." Harry watched his family spring into action, transforming what would have been horrifying news in any other household into a tactical opportunity. This was why he loved being an Addams. They faced darkness not with fear but with curiosity and practical planning. Meanwhile, Wednesday continued, "We pursue the diary. The vision suggests it's significant, possibly already in play. Could it be at Hogwarts?" Harry suggested. "That chamber looked like it might be somewhere in the castle." "Possibly." Wednesday's eyes narrowed in thought. "We'll need to investigate discreetly. Your friend's visit next month may provide useful intelligence about recent events in Wizarding Britain." The remainder of July passed in a blur of research, training, and Addams family adventures. Harry divided his time between soul magic studies, physical combat practice with Wednesday, potion brewing with Grandmama, and helping Uncle Fester test increasingly questionable explosive compounds in the back garden. "The trick," Fester explained as they packed a small metal sphere with a mixture he called instant regret, "is to create maximum chaos with minimal fatalities. Unless fatalities are the goal, in which case, adjust accordingly." Harry's Hogwarts homework seemed pedestrian by comparison. He completed his summer assignments with little effort, finding Professor Snape's essay on moonstone properties particularly simple after Grandmama's intensive brewing sessions. Add a paragraph about Moonstone's applications in necromantic potions, Wednesday suggested as she reviewed his work. Snape will appreciate the advanced knowledge, even if he must officially disapprove. By early August, they had compiled a substantial dossier on Horcruxes, though information on Voldemort's personal history remained frustratingly sparse. He wasn't born Voldemort, Harry pointed out as they reviewed their findings. That's a made-up name. If we knew his real identity, we might be able to trace potential Horcrux locations. A logical approach, Wednesday agreed. I've requested information from certain contacts at Britain's Ministry of Magic, though discretion limits what they can provide officially. What about Professor Dumbledore? Harry suggested. He seems to know more about Voldemort than he shared last year. Dumbledore keeps his own counsel, Wednesday said, a slight edge in her voice. He plays a longer game than he reveals. Useful, but not to be fully trusted with our methods or knowledge. The day before Ron and Hermione were scheduled to arrive, Wednesday presented Harry with a small silver pendant on a chain. For your scar, she explained. Grandmama and I developed it based on our research. It works with the existing containment runes to allow controlled access to the connection. Twist once counterclockwise to open a viewing channel, clockwise to seal it completely. Harry put it on, feeling a subtle magical resonance as it settled against his chest. Thank you. Use it wisely, Wednesday cautioned. And only when necessary. Soul connections are unpredictable, even with safeguards. Will I be able to see his thoughts? His plans? Potentially. The fragment contains echoes of his consciousness. With practice, you may access memories or impressions. But remember, such passages have two directions. Harry nodded solemnly. I'll be careful. No, Wednesday corrected with the faintest smile. Be Addams. Calculated risk for maximum advantage. Ron and Hermione arrived the next day via a ministry car Wednesday had arranged. Their expressions as they first glimpsed the Addams mansion, looming like a gothic nightmare against the stormy sky, were everything Harry had hoped for. Bloody hell, Ron whispered, craning his neck to take in the gargoyles leering from the roof. It's exactly like you described, only, more. Hermione clutched her overnight bag tightly. It's architecturally fascinating, she managed, clearly striving for politeness. Very, historical. Wait till you see inside, Harry grinned, leading them up the path past a garden where Morticia's carnivorous plants snapped hungrily in their direction. Grandfather planted these rosebushes, they're specially bred to cause hallucinations if you smell them too deeply. Brilliant, Ron muttered weakly. Just what every garden needs. The massive front door swung open before they reached it, revealing Lurch in his formal butler attire. Welcome, to Addams' residence, he groaned, bowing slightly. Ron's eyes bulged at the sight of the towering, cadaverous servant. Hermione, to her credit, extended her hand bravely. Thank you for having us, she said politely. I'm Hermione Granger. Lurch's groan might have been acknowledgement as he accepted her hand with surprising gentleness before shuffling aside to admit them. The entrance hall was decorated in the Addams family's inimitable style, suits of armor that moved slightly when no one was looking directly at them, portraits of ancestors in various states of elegant suffering, and display cases containing what appeared to be authentic medieval torture devices. Is that a real Iron Maiden? Hermione asked, pointing to a spiked metal coffin-like structure. Great Aunt Desdemona's favorite relaxation chamber, Harry confirmed. She said the spikes helped her posture. Gomez bounded into the hall, fencing foil in hand, mustache twitching with excitement. Harry's friends. Welcome, welcome. Marvelous to meet the companions who faced death and dark wizards alongside our boy. He seized Ron's hand, pumping it vigorously while the redhead winced slightly at his grip. Strong spirits brave enough to enter the Addams sanctum. I like you already. Morticia glided in behind her husband, elegant as always in her tight black dress. Children, she greeted them with a cold smile. What a delight to have young visitors. It's been ages since we've entertained Harry's age group, not since that unfortunate incident with the Boy Scout troop. What happened to them? Ron couldn't help asking. Nothing permanently scarring, Morticia assured him. Physically, at least. The mental trauma was entirely their own doing. Wednesday appeared at the top of the grand staircase. Harry, your friends have arrived. Good. We can begin the orientation immediately. Orientation? Hermione repeated nervously. Safety protocols, Harry explained. Which rooms to avoid, which plants not to touch, emergency procedures for spontaneous hauntings, that sort of thing. Spontaneous hauntings? Ron squeaked. Only on Tuesdays and full moons, Wednesday said as she descended the stairs. Though great-grandfather Addams occasionally manifests when he's displeased. The blood dripping from the walls is your primary warning sign. Hermione laughed nervously, then stopped when no one else joined in. You're serious. Always, Wednesday confirmed. Humor about safety protocols leads to preventable dismemberment. The tour of the mansion that followed did little to ease Ron and Hermione's trepidation. Harry showed them the main floors, identifying which doors should never be opened, marked with small skull symbols, and which creatures in the numerous terrariums were merely venomous versus actively malevolent. This is my room, he announced, showing them into his bedroom. You'll be staying in the guest rooms down the hall, we've removed the more aggressive furnishings. Hermione eyed Charlotte's elaborate web in the corner. Is that a black widow spider? Charlotte's been with me since I was 7, Harry confirmed. Mother gave her to me for my birthday. She's quite intelligent, watch. He held out his hand, and Charlotte skittered down a strand of silk to perch on his palm. Charlotte, these are my friends from Hogwarts. The spider raised her front legs in what might have been a greeting. Wicked, Ron admitted, keeping a healthy distance. But I'll admire her from over here, thanks. Dinner that evening was a full Addams family affair, with every member present and eager to interrogate Harry's friends about their adventures at Hogwarts. The long table in the formal dining room was set with ancient silver, black candles, and centerpieces featuring what appeared to be skillfully arranged human bones. Decorative only, Morticia assured Hermione, who was staring at the display. The functional skeletons remain in the basement. Grandmama served course after course of her special recipes, swamp fungus soup, roasted meat of questionable origin, and a bubbling purple dessert that moved slightly when not directly observed. So, Gomez said enthusiastically between bites, tell us about this three-headed dog. Marvelous beasts, I wrestled one in Greece during my bachelor expedition. Ron, who had been cautiously picking at his food, looked up. Fluffy. He was massive. Each head the size of a bear's, fangs like knives. Excellent. Gomez beamed. And the devil's snare. Good specimen. It nearly strangled us, Hermione confirmed, warming to the conversation despite herself. If Harry hadn't used that potion from your grandmother. Botanical assassination is an underappreciated art, Morticia nodded approvingly. My own strangulation lilies took third prize at last year's Deadly Nightshade Society exhibition. As dinner progressed, Ron and Hermione gradually relaxed, especially after realizing the food, while strange, wasn't actually harmful. The Addams family's genuine interest in their adventures, particularly the more dangerous aspects, created an unexpectedly comfortable atmosphere. After dessert, Wednesday steered the conversation toward their true purpose. We've been researching Voldemort's methods of survival, she explained, ignoring Ron's flinch at the name. Harry's encounter confirms he exists in spirit form, capable of possession. This suggests specific dark magic. Hermione leaned forward, academic curiosity overcoming her residual nervousness. What kind of magic could allow that? Soul containers, Wednesday replied simply. Objects housing fragments of his divided soul, anchoring him to the mortal realm despite bodily death. Horcruxes, Harry added, watching his friends carefully. Ron looked blank, but Hermione gasped. But that's that's the darkest magic possible. It requires murder, deliberate splitting of the soul. You're familiar with the concept? Wednesday raised an eyebrow, impressed. I read about it in a book on magical theory, Hermione admitted. Just a brief mention, it was listed as forbidden knowledge, too terrible to explain in detail. Knowledge is never terrible, Morticia commented. Only its application can be judged. Understanding dark magic is essential to combating it effectively. We believe Voldemort created multiple Horcruxes, Harry explained. And we need to identify them to prevent his full return. Ron had gone pale. You're actually hunting pieces of you-know-whose soul. Over summer holiday? The Addams family has a tradition of educational summer projects, Wednesday said matter-of-factly. Last year it was exploring subterranean mutation chambers. This year, Horcrux identification. Have you found any? Hermione asked, practical despite her evident discomfort with the topic. We have a lead, Harry said. A diary, possibly belonging to Voldemort when he was younger, before he took that name. But we need more information about his past. Diary? Ron frowned. You mean like a regular book you write in? Precisely, Wednesday nodded. Significant personal items make ideal Horcrux vessels. The connection to the creator strengthens the containment magic. Hermione bit her lip thoughtfully. If we're looking for information about you-know-who's past, Professor Dumbledore would know more than anyone. He's been at Hogwarts for decades. An obvious source, but one who parcels information according to his own agenda, Wednesday noted. Are there others at Hogwarts with similar historical perspective but perhaps fewer reservations about sharing? Ron suddenly straightened. Hagrid. He's been at Hogwarts forever, and he sometimes says things he shouldn't when he gets talking. Plus, he really likes Harry. Excellent suggestion, Wednesday approved. The groundskeeper's position would provide unique observational opportunities without the constraints of faculty discretion. We can ask him when school starts, Harry agreed. But there's something else. The diary vision showed a chamber, a hidden place that looked like it might be at Hogwarts. A hidden chamber at Hogwarts? Hermione frowned. There are dozens of secret rooms and passages according to Hogwarts, a history, but nothing particularly sinister except. She paused, eyes widening. Except the Chamber of Secrets, but that's just a legend. What legend? Wednesday asked, instantly alert. Hermione explained the story of Salazar Slytherin's hidden chamber, supposedly containing a monster that only his true heir could control, meant to purge the school of those he deemed unworthy to study magic. The location has never been found, she finished. Most historians consider it mythical. The Addams family knows better than most that legends typically contain cores of truth, Morticia commented. Especially those involving hidden chambers and monsters. If this chamber exists, Wednesday reasoned, and if Voldemort discovered it during his time at Hogwarts, it may connect to the diary Horcrux. The timing and imagery from Harry's vision suggest a correlation. But how would you-know-who be connected to Slytherin's heir? Ron asked. Unless. He looked at Harry. You're a Parselmouth, right? You mentioned it last term when we were discussing magical abilities. Harry nodded. I've always been able to talk to snakes. Mother says it's an uncommon talent, but several Addams ancestors had the ability. It's incredibly rare, Hermione said slowly. And it's historically associated with Salazar Slytherin and his descendants. A charged silence fell over the table as the implications settled. If Voldemort is the heir of Slytherin, Wednesday stated finally, and Harry can speak Parseltongue. And my scar contains a fragment of his soul, Harry continued the thought. Then the ability might have transferred through the connection, Hermione finished. Which means Voldemort is a Parselmouth too. This confirms our suspicions about the chamber, Wednesday nodded. It exists, Voldemort found it, and it likely houses Slytherin's monster, almost certainly some form of serpent, given the Parseltongue connection. We need to locate it before returning to Hogwarts, Harry decided. If the diary is somehow connected, and if it's already in play, as you said, Mother, then something might be happening soon. Gomez clapped his hands in delight. A secret chamber hunt. Hidden monsters. Soul fragments. This is turning into a properly entertaining summer. Ron and Hermione exchanged glances that suggested they had very different definitions of entertaining than the Addams family. The next few days were devoted to intensive research and preparation. The Addams library yielded several obscure references to Slytherin's chamber and possible monsters it might contain. Hermione proved her academic prowess by connecting disparate historical accounts into coherent theories. If the monster has survived for centuries, she reasoned as they pored over ancient texts, it must be long-lived and self-sustaining. That narrows the possibilities considerably. A magical serpent, Wednesday agreed, capable of hibernation, lethal enough to purge undesirables, and controllable only by Parseltongue. A basilisk. Hermione exclaimed suddenly, finding an illustration in Most Potenti Monsters. It fits all criteria: serpentine, extraordinarily long-lived, instantly lethal, and born from chicken eggs hatched under toads, which would make it Slytherin's monster rather than a natural creature. Grandfather has a mounted basilisk head in his study, Harry recalled. He said they're the kings of serpents, kill with a direct gaze, and can live for hundreds of years. Their venom is also among the most potent magical substances known, Wednesday added. Nearly impossible to counteract without phoenix tears. Ron looked horrified. You think there's a bloody basilisk hidden somewhere in Hogwarts? And you know who put a piece of his soul in a diary that might control it? The evidence suggests this possibility, Wednesday confirmed. Which means preparation is essential. The preparations that followed would have alarmed any normal parent. Wednesday led them to the armory, a room Harry had grown up exploring but which caused Ron and Hermione to stop in stunned silence at the threshold. Weapons of every conceivable type lined the walls, medieval swords and maces, ornate daggers, crossbows, blowguns, and even more modern options like modified firearms. Display cases held especially rare or dangerous items, including what appeared to be a shrunken nuclear device that Uncle Fester had acquired during the Cold War. For basilisk hunting, we need specialized equipment, Wednesday explained, selecting items from various displays. Mirrored shields to prevent direct eye contact, enchanted blades capable of penetrating magical scales, and venom extraction kits for afterward. The venom will be particularly valuable for our Horcrux destruction research. We're actually going to hunt it? Ron asked weakly. As in, actively seek out a giant snake that can kill with a look. Of course, Harry said, as if this were perfectly reasonable. Better to confront it on our terms than wait for it to attack randomly. But we don't even know where the chamber is. Hermione protested. I have a theory about that, Harry said. If it's Slytherin's chamber and requires Parseltongue to enter, the entrance must be somewhere significant to him, somewhere featuring serpent imagery. The dungeons, perhaps, Wednesday suggested. Near the Slytherin common room. Or in a bathroom, Harry added thoughtfully. A bathroom? Ron repeated incredulously. Think about it, plumbing, pipes. Perfect for a giant serpent to move through the castle unseen. And in my vision, I heard water dripping. Wednesday nodded approvingly. Logical deduction. We'll add exploration equipment for accessing the sewage system. By the time Ron and Hermione's visit concluded, they had compiled a comprehensive action plan for the upcoming term: locate the chamber, confirm the basilisk's existence, identify the diary Horcrux, and neutralize both threats. I feel like we should be more worried than we are, Hermione confessed as they packed to leave. This is incredibly dangerous. The Addams approach takes some adjustment, Harry acknowledged. But it works. Facing dangers head-on with proper preparation is ultimately safer than pretending threats don't exist. Ron shook his head in amazement. Mate, your family is completely barmy, but I'm starting to think they might be onto something. At least we have a plan instead of stumbling into trouble like last year. As they said their goodbyes in the entrance hall, Wednesday presented each of Harry's friends with small silver amulets. Basilisk protection, she explained. Not foolproof, but they vibrate in the presence of deadly magical gazes. Consider it a practical friendship token. Thank you, Mrs. Addams, Hermione said, genuinely touched as she slipped the amulet around her neck. For everything, really. This has been the most educational summer holiday I've ever had. Knowledge is the best defense against fear, Wednesday replied. And you've both proven yourselves worthy of Harry's trust and ours. Ron looked slightly stunned at this solemn endorsement from the intimidating woman. Thanks. I think the spiders in the guest bathroom finally started to like me by the third night. They're excellent judges of character, Morticia assured him. Though occasionally overzealous in expressing affection. After Ron and Hermione departed in the ministry car, Harry turned to Wednesday. They handled it well. Better than expected, she agreed. Your choice of allies shows good judgment. The girl's intelligence and the boy's loyalty complement your Addams instincts. We're ready for whatever happens with the chamber, Harry said confidently. Wednesday's expression grew serious. Perhaps. But remember, plots involving soul magic rarely unfold as anticipated. Be prepared for complications. September 1st arrived with typical Addams family fanfare, a breakfast featuring good luck pancakes shaped like tombstones, a quick combat refresher with Wednesday in the training room, and last-minute equipment checks for Harry's expanded school trunk, which now contained a secret compartment housing basilisk hunting gear. I've arranged certain precautions at Hogwarts, Wednesday informed Harry as Lurch loaded the car. Emergency port keys keyed to the mansion, communication enhancements for the journal, and I've strengthened the containment pendant for your scar. You think the connection will grow stronger? Harry asked. If the diary is indeed a Horcrux and becomes active at Hogwarts, it may resonate with the fragment in your scar. The pendant should prevent unwanted mental intrusions while allowing you to investigate deliberately. The platform goodbye was brief by design. Addams' family farewells emphasized practical preparation over emotional displays. Wednesday performed the formal forearm clasp, Gomez offered enthusiastic advice about basilisk weak points, and Morticia reminded Harry about proper venom collection techniques. For potions purposes, she clarified when a passing witch overheard and looked alarmed. Educational use only. As the Hogwarts Express pulled away, Harry joined Ron and Hermione in their usual compartment, Mortis perched on his shoulder in full shadow mink form, wings partially extended. Ready for second year? Ron asked, unwrapping a chocolate frog. As ready as possible without knowing exactly what we're facing, Harry replied. Mother says excessive planning can be counterproductive when dealing with soul magic. Better to maintain flexible response capabilities. In normal English, be ready for anything, Hermione translated, already dressed in her school robes. Exactly. Harry stroked Mortis thoughtfully. The diary is our primary concern, identifying it and determining if it's already at Hogwarts. Their strategizing was interrupted when the compartment door slid open to reveal Draco Malfoy, flanked as usual by Crabbe and Goyle. Planning your curriculum of dangerous stupidity for this year, Potter, he drawled. Potter Addams, Harry corrected automatically. And yes, though I wouldn't call it stupid. Calculated risk, rather. Malfoy's sneer faltered slightly at Harry's calm response. Father says it's ridiculous that they let you return after what happened last year. Melting a teacher's face off should have meant expulsion at minimum. Only the face that was hosting Voldemort, Harry pointed out reasonably. The school board considered it a service to the institution. Malfoy flinched at the name. You think you're special because you've got that scar and that freakish family, don't you? Things are changing at Hogwarts this year. The great Harry Potter might find himself not so popular when certain events unfold. Harry straightened, suddenly alert. What events, Malfoy? Wouldn't you like to know? Draco smirked. Let's just say Slytherin's true heritage will be recognized, and those who don't belong at Hogwarts will be dealt with appropriately. The coincidence was too precise to ignore. Harry exchanged quick glances with Ron and Hermione before focusing on Malfoy again. "Your father wouldn't happen to have a diary he's recently passed along, would he?" Harry asked casually. "Small, black, possibly very old." The flash of surprise in Malfoy's eyes confirmed their suspicions before he could compose himself. "I don't know what you're talking about, Potter." "I think you do," Harry replied, standing slowly. Mortis sensed the tension, unfurling his wings to their full extent and hissing menacingly. "A word of advice, Malfoy, playing with soul containers is dangerous even for adults. For someone our age, it's potentially fatal." "Soul containers?" "You're deranged," Malfoy scoffed, but his face had paled considerably. "Come on," he muttered to Crabbe and Goyle. "It smells like blood traitor and mudblood in here." The moment they left, Harry turned to his friends. "It's happening. The diary is at Hogwarts, and Lucius Malfoy delivered it." "But who to?" Hermione wondered. "Draco seemed surprised by your question. I don't think he has it himself." "Someone vulnerable," Harry reasoned. "Someone who wouldn't recognize its dark nature immediately." "We need to watch for signs," Ron decided. "If it really controls the basilisk, there should be evidence when it becomes active." "Exactly," Harry agreed. "And we need to locate the chamber entrance as soon as possible." The rest of the journey passed with detailed planning and preparation. By the time they reached Hogsmeade Station, Operation Basilisk Hunt, as Ron had enthusiastically named it, was fully developed. The welcome feast proceeded normally until Dumbledore introduced the new defense against the dark arts teacher, a flamboyant wizard named Gilderoy Lockhart who seemed more interested in his own golden curls than actual defense techniques. "5 galleons says he doesn't last till Christmas," Ron muttered as Lockhart took an elaborate bow. "Mother would find him tedious," Harry agreed. "All presentation, no substance." After the feast, they returned to Gryffindor Tower, where Harry unpacked his specialized equipment and arranged it for easy access. The silver pendant from Wednesday hung cool against his chest, a constant reminder of the Horcrux fragment within his scar and the connection it represented. "Tonight we rest," he told Ron as they prepared for bed. "Tomorrow we begin hunting." The signs appeared sooner than expected. Just 2 weeks into term, Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, was found petrified near a bathroom on the first floor, hanging from a torch bracket. Next to her, written on the wall in what appeared to be blood, were the words, "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." The entire school gathered at the scene, whispers spreading like wildfire. Harry examined the wall message carefully while Filch wailed over his petrified pet. "Not dead," Harry noted quietly to Ron and Hermione. "Petrified. Consistent with indirect basilisk exposure, a reflection of its gaze perhaps, or seen through something." "There's water all over the floor," Hermione observed. "She might have seen the reflection there." Dumbledore arrived with the other professors, quickly taking charge of the situation. As he carefully removed Mrs. Norris for treatment, Harry noticed something else. The bathroom next to the message was out of order, with water seeping from beneath the door. "That bathroom," he whispered to his friends. "We need to check it." Later that evening, after the excitement had died down, they slipped back to investigate. The bathroom turned out to be a girl's lavatory, long abandoned due to frequent flooding and the presence of a ghost known as Moaning Myrtle. "What are you doing in here?" the ghost demanded when she caught Harry examining the sinks. "This is a girl's bathroom." Looking for the Chamber of Secrets, Harry replied honestly, finding that direct approaches often worked best with the deceased. "Were you here when it was opened before?" Myrtle's translucent eyes widened. "How did you know it was opened before?" "Logical deduction based on historical patterns," Harry explained. "Plus, you seem to be from the right time period, 1940s, judging by your uniform style." 1943, Myrtle confirmed, floating closer with new interest. "You're different from the other students. You don't flinch when I come near." "I grew up with ghosts," Harry shrugged. The Addams family mansion has 17 permanent spectral residents and numerous occasional visitors. Death is simply another state of being. This unconventional response pleased Myrtle immensely. She drifted even closer, her ghostly face inches from Harry's. I like you. You don't act like I'm horrible just because I'm dead. Of course not. That would be rude. Harry smiled. So, the chamber, were you here when it was opened? Myrtle preened slightly at his attention. I was. In fact, I died because of it. Ron and Hermione exchanged startled glances while Harry nodded as if this were perfectly normal information. The basilisk got you? He asked. I don't know what it was, Myrtle said, suddenly dramatic. I just remember seeing great big yellow eyes over by that sink there. She pointed to a specific sink in the circular arrangement, and then I just sort of died. Harry immediately inspected the indicated sink, finding a tiny snake etched into one of the copper taps. Parseltongue, he murmured. The entrance requires Parseltongue to open. You think this is it? Ron asked, staring at the ordinary-looking sink dubiously. It matches all criteria, Harry confirmed. Hidden yet accessible, connected to plumbing systems, marked with a serpent symbol, and tied to Myrtle's death during the previous opening. Can you open it? Hermione whispered. Harry studied the snake carving, then closed his eyes, concentrating on seeing it as a real serpent. When he opened his eyes, he spoke in Parseltongue, open. The sink began to move immediately. The tap glowed white and started spinning, then the entire sink descended into the floor, revealing a large pipe wide enough for a person to slide down, or for a massive serpent to ascend. Bloody hell, Ron breathed. You did it. We should go down now, Harry decided, already pulling miniaturized equipment from his pockets. The basilisk could be active, and we need to confirm the diary's involvement. Now. Hermione squeaked. Shouldn't we tell a professor first? Harry considered this. Mother says authorities often complicate monster hunting unnecessarily. Better to gather evidence first, then present a comprehensive assessment. Your mother has very unusual parenting philosophies, Hermione noted, but she was already accepting the mirror shield Harry offered her. Standard Addams approach, Harry shrugged, enlarging a coiled rope with a grappling hook. Secure exit strategy first, then proceed with appropriate caution. After anchoring the rope and equipping themselves with mirrored shields and enchanted daggers from the Addams armory, they descended one by one into the pipe. The slick, dark passage twisted and turned, taking them deep beneath the school until they landed in a damp stone tunnel littered with small animal bones. Feeding remains, Harry identified, examining the tunnel floor. Consistent with basilisk behavior. It must hunt small creatures when not directed against specific targets. They proceeded cautiously, shields ready, following the winding passage until it opened into a vast chamber. Towering stone pillars carved with serpents supported a ceiling lost in darkness, and at the far end stood an enormous statue of Salazar Slytherin, his monkey-like face staring down at them imperiously. The Chamber of Secrets, Hermione whispered, her voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space. But where's the basilisk? Ron asked nervously, eyes darting around. Hibernating, perhaps, Harry suggested, approaching the statue carefully. Or elsewhere in the pipe system. The important question is, who's controlling it, and where's the diary? As if in answer, a soft voice spoke from behind a pillar. Hello, Harry Potter. I've been waiting for you. They spun to see a slender girl with bright red hair step into view, Ginny Weasley, Ron's younger sister who had started Hogwarts this year. But her movements were strange, jerky and unnatural, and her eyes had an empty, glazed quality. In her hands, she clutched a small black book. Ginny? Ron gasped. What are you doing down here? Not Ginny, Harry said quietly, recognizing the signs of possession from his Addams education. Not entirely, anyway. The girl smiled, a cold expression that looked wrong on her young face. Perceptive, Harry Potter. Far more than I expected from an infant who supposedly defeated the greatest wizard of all time. Potter Addams, Harry corrected automatically. And you're the diary Horcrux. Tom Riddle, I presume. Before you styled yourself as Lord Voldemort. The shock that passed over Ginny's face confirmed his deduction. How could you possibly know that? Harry tapped his scar. We're connected. Soul recognizes soul, especially fragments of the same original. Mother helped me understand it this summer. Mother? Riddle sneered through Ginny's mouth. You mean those freaks who took you in after I killed your real parents? How pathetic. The Addams family, Harry replied calmly, taught me to recognize and combat soul magic. Including Horcruxes. Which is how I know exactly what you are and how to destroy you. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Ginny's possessed face. You're bluffing. No child could understand such magic. Test me, Harry challenged, slowly reaching for the pendant at his neck. Or shall I demonstrate? Riddle's eyes narrowed. Enough of this. I didn't bring you here to talk. He turned Ginny toward the statue and spoke in Parseltongue. Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four. The statue's mouth began to open, revealing a dark tunnel within. Harry immediately raised his mirror shield, signaling Ron and Hermione to do the same. Close your eyes, he warned. Look only in the mirrors. A massive shape began to emerge from Slytherin's mouth, first a snout, then a head, and finally the colossal body of the basilisk, its scales gleaming poisonous green in the chamber's dim light. Kill them, Riddle commanded in Parseltongue. Harry responded in the same language, addressing the basilisk directly. Stop. I too am a speaker. The enormous serpent paused, its head swaying in confusion as it received contradictory commands from two Parselmouths. It won't listen to you, Riddle snarled. I awakened it. I control it through the diary and the girl. The diary, Harry repeated, focusing on the black book in Ginny's hands. That was the key, destroy the diary, free Ginny, and deactivate the basilisk. He signaled to Ron and Hermione, a battle plan they had practiced at the Addams mansion. Ron immediately began moving right, drawing the basilisk's attention with loud noises while keeping his eyes firmly on his mirror shield. Hermione circled left, preparing a spell they had researched specifically for this purpose. Harry faced Riddle directly. You're not the only one with connection to deadly creatures, he stated, then called out, Mortis. Attack pattern Sigma. The shadow mink, who had been concealed in Harry's robes, burst forth in full form, wings extended and emitting a bone-chilling shriek as it launched itself at Ginny's hands, specifically targeting the diary. Startled by the unexpected assault, Riddle Ginny stumbled backward, momentarily losing control of the basilisk, which turned in confusion, its massive head sweeping toward the ceiling. Now, Hermione! Harry shouted. Hermione cast the prepared spell, a modified version of the roosting charm typically used for controlling magical flying creatures, adapted for serpents through Hermione's brilliant research. Nidus Serpensortia, she cried, aiming at the basilisk's head. The spell struck true, instantly creating the olfactory and magical illusion of a perfect nesting chamber. The basilisk, still confused by the conflicting Parseltongue commands and now influenced by the powerful nesting instinct the spell triggered, began coiling in on itself, eyes closing as the hibernation aspect of the charm took effect. Meanwhile, Mortis had successfully knocked the diary from Ginny's grasp. It skidded across the stone floor, landing near Harry's feet. No! Riddle screamed through Ginny, lunging forward. Harry was faster. From his belt, he drew the silver dagger from his Addams family kit, the one Uncle Fester had given him, enhanced with runes specifically designed for fighting magical creatures. In one fluid motion, he plunged it into the diary's cover. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The book screamed, an actual, human scream, and began gushing what appeared to be ink but moved like blood, pulsing and spreading across the floor. Riddle's control over Ginny visibly fractured, her body convulsing as the possession fought to maintain its hold. More damage, Harry called to Ron. The Horcrux is fighting. Ron needed no further encouragement. He rushed forward, pulled one of the basilisk's discarded fangs from the floor where it had fallen during the beast's confusion, and handed it to Harry. Basilisk venom, Harry nodded appreciatively. Perfect. He stabbed the fang directly into the diary's pages, twisting it to ensure maximum penetration. The diary's scream intensified, the ink blood now fountaining upward. Through Ginny, Riddle was also screaming, her body arching unnaturally as the Horcrux connection shattered. With a final, terrible cry, the possession broke. Ginny collapsed to the floor, the unnatural light leaving her eyes as she lost consciousness. Simultaneously, a ghostly figure that had been forming above the diary, a handsome teenage boy in Hogwarts robes, shattered like glass, the fragments dissolving into nothing. In the sudden silence that followed, they could hear only the basilisk's heavy breathing as it settled into magically induced hibernation and the drip of water from the chamber walls. "We did it," Ron breathed, rushing to his sister's side. "Ginny! Ginny, are you all right?" She stirred weakly, eyes fluttering open. "Ron! What, where am I? What happened?" "Possession via Horcrux diary," Harry explained, kneeling beside her and checking her pulse with clinical efficiency, another skill Wednesday had insisted he learn. "The connection's broken now. You'll experience fatigue, memory gaps, and possibly night terrors for a few weeks, but no permanent damage." Ginny's eyes widened in horror as fragments of memory returned. "The diary. Tom. I tried to throw it away, but I couldn't, and then I started losing time. Oh God, did I hurt anyone?" Mrs. Norris was petrified, Hermione said gently. "But no human casualties. We caught it early thanks to Harry's research." "What's going to happen to me?" Ginny asked, tears forming. "I'll be expelled." "And the basilisk is temporarily hibernating," Harry assured her. "As for consequences, the Addams approach suggests presenting authorities with a completed solution rather than an ongoing problem. We've neutralized the diary Horcrux and contained the basilisk. All that remains is cleanup and extraction." "You make it sound so normal," Ginny said weakly. Harry smiled. "Mother says normalcy is relative. What matters is effective resolution of dangerous situations." They helped Ginny to her feet, and Harry collected the destroyed diary and basilisk fang, carefully wrapping both in protective cloth from his kit. "Evidence," he explained. "And research materials. Grandmama will want to analyze the Horcrux destruction process, and basilisk venom has countless applications in advanced potion making." "You're keeping souvenirs from nearly being killed?" Ron asked incredulously. "Of course," Harry replied, as if this were obvious. "Mother would be disappointed otherwise. The Addams family tradition demands trophies from significant encounters." As they prepared to exit the chamber, a soft pop echoed through the cavernous space. They turned to find Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, soaring toward them, carrying something in its talons. "Reinforcements," Harry observed as the magnificent bird dropped a tattered bundle at his feet, the Sorting Hat. "A bit late," Ron commented. "We've already handled things." Harry picked up the hat curiously, then gasped as something heavy dropped from within it, a silver sword with rubies the size of eggs embedded in the hilt. "Gryffindor's sword," Hermione breathed, recognizing it from her reading. "It comes to worthy Gryffindors in times of need." "Excellent craftsmanship," Harry noted, examining the blade professionally. "Mother would approve of the balance. Though we managed without it this time." Fawkes trilled what sounded like an apologetic note, then gestured toward his tail feathers. "I believe he's offering transportation," Hermione said. "Phoenix flight, they can carry immense weights." "Convenient," Harry nodded. "Though I was looking forward to testing the improved grappling mechanism on the ascension rope." They grasped Fawkes' tail feathers, and with another musical cry, the phoenix lifted them effortlessly up through the pipe system, delivering them directly to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. "You're alive," the ghost noted, sounding almost disappointed. "I was preparing a welcome speech for when you joined me." "Perhaps another time," Harry told her politely. "We should report to the headmaster now. And get Ginny to the hospital wing," Hermione added, supporting the still wobbly girl. "What about the basilisk?" Ron asked as they left the bathroom. "It's still down there, just sleeping." "A contained threat is a research opportunity," Harry quoted one of Wednesday's favorite sayings. "We'll inform Dumbledore, but I suspect Mother will want to examine it personally. Basilisks are exceedingly rare." The headmaster's office was already occupied when they arrived, not just by Dumbledore, but also by Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy, Professor McGonagall, and most surprisingly, Wednesday Addams, who stood with perfect posture near the fireplace. "Mother!" Harry exclaimed. "How did you?" "The communication journal registered extreme danger," Wednesday explained calmly. "I was already en route when the school contacted the Malfoys about their involvement in distributing a dark artifact to a student." Lucius Malfoy looked livid, his pale face flushed with anger. "These accusations are completely unfounded. I had nothing to do with, save it," Wednesday cut him off, her voice cold enough to freeze flame. "Your magical signature is all over the diary. Amateur work, leaving such obvious traces." "Mr. Potter," Dumbledore interjected, eyes twinkling despite the tension in the room, "or perhaps I should say Mr. Potter Addams. It seems you and your friends have had quite an adventure. Would you care to explain?" Harry did so succinctly, presenting the destroyed diary and basilisk fong as evidence. He explained Ginny's possession, the chamber's location, and their neutralization of both threats with clinical precision that clearly impressed Wednesday, whose expression remained impassive but whose eyes held a glint of pride. "Most extraordinary," Dumbledore commented when he finished. "And you deduced all this through research?" "Family expertise," Harry clarified. The Addams approach to soul magic and creature containment proved effective in this case. "Indeed," Wednesday agreed. "Though I would have preferred advance notification before the actual confrontation. The basilisk hunting equipment was for reconnaissance only. The situation escalated unexpectedly," Harry explained. Tactical flexibility seemed appropriate. Lucius Malfoy, who had been silently seething, finally exploded. "This is absurd. You expect us to believe that children located a mythical chamber, defeated Slytherin's monster, and destroyed a powerful dark artifact without adult assistance?" "They had preparation," Wednesday corrected. "Summer training specifically for this scenario, based on intelligence gathered through Harry's unique connection to Voldemort." The name caused both Malfoys to flinch visibly. "And what exactly is this unique connection?" Narcissa asked, speaking for the first time, her eyes fixed on Harry's scar. "Classified family information," Wednesday replied before Harry could answer. Though Mr. Malfoy might have learned more had he researched the diary before using it as a weapon against children. "I did no such thing." Lucius protested, but his denial lacked conviction. Dumbledore held up the ruined diary. "This belonged to Lord Voldemort when he was still known as Tom Riddle. It was enchanted to possess and control whoever wrote in it, ultimately using them to open the Chamber of Secrets and release the basilisk against Muggle-born students. A plot that failed thanks to Harry's advanced knowledge and preparation," McGonagall added, looking at Harry with newfound respect. "The question remains," Wednesday said, fixing Lucius with her unnerving stare, "why a former Death Eater would possess such an item and deliberately place it in the hands of an innocent child. The implications are concerning." The threat in her voice was unmistakable. Lucius paled further, while Narcissa placed a protective hand on her husband's arm. "Perhaps," Dumbledore suggested mildly, "Mr. Malfoy was himself deceived about the diary's nature. An unfortunate error in judgment rather than malicious intent." The lifeline was obvious, and Lucius seized it immediately. "Precisely. Had I known the true nature of the object, you'd have sought a different victim," Wednesday finished coldly. "One less likely to be traced back to you." "Ms. Addams," Dumbledore cautioned. "The Addams family, Wednesday continued as if she hadn't heard him, takes a particular interest in those who target children with soul magic. It creates a certain blood debt. The term hung in the air like a physical threat. The Malfoys exchanged alarmed glances. Now see here, Lucius began, but Wednesday silenced him with a raised hand. Consider the debt partially paid through your involuntary assistance in identifying and destroying one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. The remainder, we'll discuss another time. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose at the term Horcrux, but he said nothing, merely watching the exchange with heightened interest. I believe we're finished here, Wednesday concluded. Harry, excellent work. The family will be proud. Thank you, Mother, Harry replied formally. As for the basilisk, Wednesday addressed Dumbledore directly, the Addams family requests research access. Its venom has significant applications in our ongoing Horcrux destruction investigations. Horcruxes. McGonagall repeated faintly. Plural. Indeed, Wednesday confirmed. Our research suggests Voldemort created multiple anchors. The diary was merely one. A concerning theory, Dumbledore said carefully. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Ms. Addams. Of course. Wednesday turned to Harry. We'll talk later. I'll remain at Hogwarts for several days to examine the chamber and make arrangements regarding the basilisk. After everyone else had been dismissed, the Malfoys leaving in barely concealed panic, Ginny escorted to the hospital wing, and Ron and Hermione returning to Gryffindor Tower, Harry remained briefly with Wednesday. You did well, she told him once they were alone in a nearby classroom. The application of Addams' techniques was precise and effective. The basilisk isn't dead, Harry explained. Just in magical hibernation. I thought you'd prefer it intact for research. Excellent judgment, Wednesday approved. Its venom will be invaluable for destroying the remaining Horcruxes, and Grandmama has several experimental uses in mind. How many do you think exist? Harry asked. Horcruxes. Wednesday's expression grew serious. Based on the magical resonance patterns of the diary and your scar, I estimate 5 to 7 total fragments. A magically significant number would appeal to him. And one is inside me, Harry said, touching his scar. The fragment you contained with the runes. Yes. Wednesday hesitated, something she rarely did. That presents complications for our long-term strategy. Harry understood immediately. To truly destroy Voldemort, all Horcruxes must be eliminated. Including mine. We're researching alternatives, Wednesday assured him. Methods to extract the fragment without harming the host. The Addams family has extensive experience with soul transfers and extractions. And if you can't find one? Wednesday placed her hands on Harry's shoulders, looking directly into his eyes. Then we face that reality together, with the dignity and courage befitting both Potter and Addams traditions. But I did not raise you for 12 years to lose you to a magical parasite. The fierce protectiveness in her voice was as close to conventional maternal affection as Wednesday ever displayed. Harry felt a surge of confidence. If anyone could solve an impossible magical problem, it was the Addams family. What now? He asked. Now, Wednesday said, straightening, we harvest basilisk parts, research the chamber's secrets, and prepare for the next phase of our Horcrux hunt. Dumbledore knows more than he's sharing about Voldemort's past, information that could help identify the remaining soul fragments. Should we trust him with our knowledge? Wednesday considered this. Partially. He has resources we need, but his methods differ from ours. He would prioritize your protection over tactical advantage. While I prepare you to face reality and triumph through superior knowledge and preparation, Wednesday finished. The Addams way. Harry nodded. It was the approach that had served him well so far, confronting darkness directly rather than hiding from it. His combined heritage, Potter courage and Addams' embracing of the macabre, created a unique strength that had already defeated Voldemort twice. One more thing, Wednesday added. Your Parseltongue ability. From the Horcrux fragment? Possibly. But the Addams bloodline includes several Parselmouths historically. It may have been latent in you regardless, merely awakened by the connection. Either way, it's a valuable skill. We'll develop it further. Unlike the wizarding world that viewed Parseltongue with suspicion and fear, the Addams family saw it as just another useful ability, one more tool in their extensive magical arsenal. The aftermath of the chamber incident transformed Harry standing at Hogwarts. Where before he'd been viewed as a curiosity, famous yet odd with his Addams connections, now students regarded him with a mixture of awe and cautious respect. The presence of Wednesday Addams at the school for several days only enhanced this effect. She moved through the corridors like a shadow, her black attire and expressionless face causing students to flatten themselves against walls as she passed. Even professors seemed unsettled by her, with the notable exceptions of Snape, who engaged her in lengthy discussions about potion innovations, and McGonagall, who had apparently developed a grudging respect for her parenting approach after seeing the results. "Your mother is terrifying," Neville confessed one evening in the common room. "But brilliant too, I think." Professor Sprout was practically glowing after they talked about carnivorous plant breeding. "She has that effect on people," Harry acknowledged. The Addams family specializes in finding beauty where others see only darkness or danger. The basilisk remained in its magically induced hibernation while Wednesday and a team of specialists she'd summoned, including a suspiciously vampire-like woman introduced only as Cousin Desdemona, conducted extensive research in the chamber. Dumbledore had granted them access under strict conditions, which Wednesday followed with surprising compliance, though Harry suspected this was merely because their goals temporarily aligned. By the time Christmas approached, the school had settled back into normal routines. The basilisk had been relocated to a secure Addams facility. For ethical research purposes, Wednesday had explained to a skeptical McGonagall, Ginny had fully recovered from her possession with only occasional nightmares, and the Malfoys had withdrawn into uncharacteristic silence regarding the entire affair. Harry, Ron, and Hermione used the relative calm to continue their own research into Voldemort's remaining Horcruxes. The Room of Requirement, a hidden space Harry had discovered through careful questioning of Hogwarts house elves, became their headquarters, filled with books, maps, and a growing wall of connections and theories. If the diary was significant to his school days, Hermione reasoned as they worked one evening, then perhaps the other Horcruxes follow a similar pattern, objects meaningful to different periods of his life. Mother thinks so too, Harry agreed. She's been researching his movements after leaving Hogwarts, places he visited, people he encountered. The pattern suggests an obsession with magical founders' artifacts. Like the Sword of Gryffindor? Ron asked, gesturing to the replica they'd sketched on their evidence board. Possibly, though Slytherin artifacts would appeal more to his heritage, Harry said. A locket, perhaps, or a ring passed down through generations. Their theorizing was interrupted when an owl tapped at the window, not a school owl, but a sleek raven that Harry recognized as one of Wednesday's messengers. The bird delivered a small package wrapped in black paper, addressed to Harry in his mother's precise handwriting. Inside was a vial containing swirling silver-white substance, memories, and a note, Harry, these extracted memories provide context for our Horcrux investigation. Dumbledore has been collecting them for years but sharing selectively. I acquired these through methods he wouldn't approve of. Use the room's pensive function, northeast corner, think of memory viewing, to examine them. The past reveals the future when properly interpreted. Mother P.S. Grandmama sends her regards. The basilisk venom exceeded expectations, 3 experimental applications successful, only 2 lab explosions. Your family's definition of successful concerns me sometimes, Hermione noted, reading over Harry's shoulder. Only 2 explosions is actually quite safe by Addams standards, Harry assured her. Uncle Fester averages 4 per experiment. Following Wednesday's instructions, they discovered the room could indeed provide a pensieve, a shallow stone basin that materialized in the indicated corner when Harry concentrated on memory viewing. I've read about these, Hermione whispered reverently. They're incredibly rare. Harry carefully poured the silver contents of the vial into the basin, where they swirled mysteriously, neither liquid nor gas. "Ready?" he asked his friends. Together, they leaned forward until their faces touched the silvery surface, and then they were falling, tumbling into someone else's memories. What followed was a carefully curated collection of scenes from Tom Riddle's life, his discovery at the orphanage by a younger Dumbledore, his obsession with his Slytherin heritage, his manipulation of the Hogwarts staff, and most importantly, his fixation on certain magical artifacts. The gaunt ring, Harry noted as they watched Riddle murder his own father and grandparents. He took it after killing them. And look at how he's asking about the Hufflepuff cup and Slytherin locket in that memory with Hepzibah Smith, Hermione added. Right before she mysteriously died. Then there's something at Hogwarts too, Ron pointed out as they witnessed Riddle's return to the school years later, supposedly to apply for the Defense Against the Dark Arts position. He hid something while he was here. When they emerged from the memories, they immediately added their new information to the evidence wall. For likely Horcruxes, Harry summarized. The ring, the locket, the cup, and something hidden at Hogwarts. Plus the diary we've already destroyed, and... He touched his scar. And you, Hermione finished softly. But your mother's working on that. The Addams family doesn't give up easily, Harry agreed. Especially when it comes to unusual magical problems. As the term ended and summer approached, Harry felt more prepared than ever for what lay ahead. The chamber incident had proven the effectiveness of the Addams approach, research, preparation, and direct confrontation of threats rather than avoidance. On the Hogwarts Express heading home, Harry wrote in his communication journal, "Mother, the memory extraction proved invaluable. We've identified 4 additional Horcrux candidates. Summer research can focus on possible locations and destruction methods. Ron and Hermione have agreed to continue helping. Their complementary skills proved essential during the chamber confrontation. Wizarding Britain seems to be reassessing the Addams connection. Professor McGonagall actually suggested that my unusual upbringing has certain practical advantages in crisis situations. High praise from her. Looking forward to further basilisk venom application experiments. Grandmama mentioned something about soul extraction possibilities. Harry, the response came quickly, in Wednesday's elegant script, Harry, excellent progress. The family is preparing for intensive summer training, combat techniques, advanced soul magic theory, and practical Horcrux hunting methodology. Your friends are welcome to join for the central research phase. Grandfather has located what may be the Gaunt property mentioned in the memories. Expedition planned for July. McGonagall's assessment is accurate, if understated. The wizarding world is beginning to recognize what the Addams family has always known, that embracing darkness rather than fearing it creates true power and understanding. The basilisk research continues promisingly. Grandmama has developed a potential extraction process for the scar fragment, though testing remains incomplete. Volunteer subjects have experienced varied results, 3 successes, 2 failures, 1 unexpected transference to a nearby houseplant that subsequently developed serpentine characteristics and a taste for human blood. Now Morticia's favorite specimen. Travel safely. The family awaits your return. Mother. Harry smiled as he finished reading, tucking the journal away as the train neared London. Ahead lay another summer of Addams family adventures, dangerous, educational, and exactly what he needed to prepare for the challenges to come. The wizarding world was slowly learning what Harry had known since infancy, that the Addams approach to darkness, studying it, understanding it, embracing its power while maintaining moral clarity, offered advantages that conventional magical education couldn't provide. As he prepared to face Voldemort's remaining Horcruxes, Harry felt the dual legacies within him working in perfect harmony, Potter courage and Addams methodology creating something uniquely powerful. Whatever came next, he would face it with the confidence of someone who had never been taught to fear the dark. After all, as Wednesday often said, normal people fear the darkness because they don't understand it. The Addams family fears ignorance for precisely the same reason. And Harry Potter Addams was anything but normal. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.